I've been thinking about the best DJs in history, from important radio DJs like Frankie Crocker or Jocko Henderson, to innovators like Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa, to pioneers of new styles like, say, Frankie Knuckles in Chicago or David Mancuso in New York. I mean, even into the modern day with DJs like Craze and Qbert pushing the art form of DJing to its absolute limit. But there's one DJ who's passed over all too often in these retrospectives, and as with so many moments in music history, we look back to New York in the 1970s. So while Nicky Siano, Francis Grosso and the like cemented their names as pioneers of the nightclub scene, and DJs like Kool Herc and Pete Jones paved the way for hip-hop, there are a cast of characters who don't really fit that neatly into the narrative on either side, particularly with hip-hop, where the Bronx is seen as the be-all and end-all of early development. DJs from other boroughs are forgotten or erased from history, and when they're not, they're often misrepresented in that history. That indeed is the story of the first Grandmaster, a DJ who before any other had an outsized impact on the innovations that led to hip-hop and DJing at large. So why is he often left as a footnote? Well, for one, he wasn't from Manhattan or the Bronx, he was from Brooklyn. For two, he was past his peak popularity by the mid-70s, and for three, he tragically passed away in '92, so he can't even defend his own legacy. This is the story of the late, the great Grandmaster Flowers.
You know, the music's nice when Flowers is playing here.
I'm talking about Flowers, the original Grandmaster Flash. That's where Grandmaster Flash got his Grandmaster from.
Jonathan Flowers hailed from the Farragut houses in Brooklyn, and his name first appeared in graffiti tags around the mid-60s, often as Flowers and Dice. His debut as a DJ might have come around the same time, but our first documented evidence is later into the 60s when we see the DJ Grandmaster Flowers in full effect. This was an interesting time in the development of DJing, as venues often weren't built out with their own sound systems yet, so the importance of a DJ was half on his skill in his record collection and half on his sound system. And actually, I'm going to dive deeper into the development of modern DJing, so subscribe so you don't miss that. Anyway, Flowers came about at a time when DJing really was still in its infancy as an art, and he was a pioneer on the wave of a lot of innovations. He was one of that first wave of mobile DJs in the 60s as venues looked to transition to DJs from using live bands. Both Flowers and King Charles looked to be on the crest of that first wave. He even became the opening DJ for James Brown's Yankee Stadium show in 1968. And then at the end of the 60s, he was one of the first people to play club music from a sound system during New York's carnival, instead of traditional Caribbean instruments. Both Flowers and Starlight Disco played carnival, and in this way brought the West Indian and African communities together and kind of paved the way for the more modern New York carnival style.
He went up against these West Indians. They was called Starlight Disco, I think. Starlight Disco, and then they had the parade going on, and Flowers just plugged his stuff up and started playing, and he tore the whole crowd up. Everybody that was American came over to his side of the park, and that's when I knew he was a tremendous dude.
You know, around this time there are a lot of debates about who did what first, but we can confidently say Flowers was at least the first DJ many people saw who used two turntables as part of his set. Many of the innovations may not have been his, but he was the most popular mobile DJ at the time, and was the first DJ many people saw to use two turntables, yes, but also the first DJ many people saw to use lights or incorporate lights into his show. In researching Flowers more thoroughly, I came across two interviews, one with DJ Tony Smith, the other with Ron Plummer. Both were in the same circles as Flowers and had some great first-hand accounts that, for me, shed a lot more light onto exactly why he was the Grandmaster before any other, starting with Tony. When asked what Flowers was like, he said, "He was the best, but he was most egotistical too. He was a bastard. He just wasn't nice to you. He wanted to be so exclusive. He wanted to be the best, and I guess he thought that's the way he had to be the best." DJ Plummer echoes this sentiment too, that Flowers was both the best and very sure of it. If you didn't know about that arrogance and you listened to the music and you were into funk, the West Coast stuff, rock stuff, you really thought he was godlike, fantastic. So a lot of people thought he was better than anyone else. Flowers was sort of like a Jimi Hendrix. He would do everything and you were always learning from him. Flowers was probably the most extreme that I remember, somebody that just knows they're good. As an aside, Tony shed some light here on a practice I know was commonplace in Jamaica, but had only seen alluded to in New York. They used to cross out the records, so if you looked, you couldn't even see what the record was. I started doing that. Especially exclusive records that you knew people were going to come up. Maboya and Smith Brothers were definitely more friendly. Flowers had the best music though. He really had a great sound system. The technique wasn't as effective as it had been for Cox and Dodd and his downbeat system in Jamaica, as by the 70s you couldn't really keep a record secret for several years, but they were doing everything they could. Okay, so Flowers was one of the first DJs to play outdoor jams. He had one of the first great sound systems. He pioneered mobile DJing as an art form, used 2 turntables earlier than some of his peers. He was the first DJ to play New York Carnival. He was the first DJ to support James Brown. It's a long, long list of accolades. So why don't we talk about him more? With a lot of these early proponents, we rely on first-hand accounts. For DJs like Kool Herc or Grandmaster Flash, we often rely on their own retelling of the story. That's not something we can do with Flowers, as he passed in '92. His legacy has to be carried forward by those who are left behind, and often the interesting story is being told about those who came up behind him, who built on his work. But why doesn't he pop up more into the 70s? He's on a few flyers, sure, and there's a tape circulating from around 1980, but whereas the stars of Flash, Herc, Mancuso, Grosso are all rising, Flowers is fading. He fell hard into a world of drugs, and by a couple of accounts had sold most of his record collection by the early 80s just to fuel his habit. According to DJ Plummer, people tried to help him out of this spiral, but to them, it just felt like he didn't want the help. His early legacy was one that he never built on, and the world of DJing passed him by, leaving him as a footnote in a history he really should have written. A tragedy that an important figure with so much to offer fell so hard. The veneration his peers had for the skill of the Grandmaster Flowers speaks volumes to the place he should take in DJ history, and we would all do well to remember, before any other, the first Grandmaster. And as always, thanks for watching. I think that one was good, eh?
Yes.
Kinda half.
The most dynamic individuals among the many dynamic individuals that are playing music in New York today. Kind of to the discredit of the music world, I think it's time that I first introduce you to Cameron Flowers, who is one of the founders of disco music and one of the innovators. Working hard here, hidden down behind. How you doing, Flowers?
I'm all right.
We are kind of, I want you to remain like loose and talk to New York like you're talking to your record player. And what is disco?
Well, let's see, what is disco?
What is it to you?
Disco to me is more or less a life for now. And I feel that the field is quite overflowed with quite a bit of DJs, and I don't know how long it's gonna last or anything, but I try to be the best at what I do, you know, and it's been a more or less of a lifetime job instead of a hobby like it is to most people.
Well, where is disco going, and is mahogany like a really new concept in cabaret?
Mahogany, I wouldn't consider it as like a discotheque type club. It's more of a gala type club with disco added, I would say.
So as an exotic flavor.
Yeah.
Cameron Flowers, who most of us have heard of and seen, but this is he, the man behind disco, primarily in New York, coming out of that sweet place, Brooklyn. And would you look at this board? Look at this.
You know, the music's nice when Flowers is playing here. And, you know, it's a well put together club. It's a well thought out club. And, you know, the young ladies that come here, you know, are attractive and they mature. It's an older crowd, type of crowd I like.
Guys like Flowers back in the day made it where we are right now in this park today. Wasn't for guys like him. We was doing parks like this back in the 70s, man. What the guys are doing now is old time. They think everything came out of Manhattan, the Bronx, but it came right here in Brooklyn. So Flowers, Maboya, Plummer, the Smith brothers, P.T. Jones, those are the pioneers for me. Were the ones that started Mobile Jock.
So can you tell me like about Flowers, whatever you know, and some of the DJs back then?
Flowers was really good. He used to rock with 3 turntables at a time.
3 turntables?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
You know, he was good with it too.
Yeah?
Very good.
Was it like mixing back and forth?
Yes. And simultaneously, he would play 3 at one time. He might have Good Times, Love Is the Message, and Bounce Skate Roll all coming in at one time.
Oh.
He would also have Teddy Pendergrass. You got that what I need, and only you. He would have about 2 or 3 records coming in at one time. He'll bring in one, then the other one will be playing at the same time. He'll bring in the third one for little snippets at a time, change the record real quick, pull the record out the crate. You know, it's wicked back in the day.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Mr. Flowers, he didn't have a crew.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I guess he got different people to help him with his speakers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But his sound system was always pumping. By the time, see, he was a legend long before I started DJing. Flowers was a legend.
Grandmaster Flowers and Maboya, BT Express, The Joneses, and Black Ivory live at the St. George Hotel, Saturday, February 15th. Tickets at the usual places. Call 771-5292. Your host, Elmo the Magic Christian, a Showstopper production.
Showstoppers present Saturday, February 15th live, the BT Express. The Joneses and Black Ivory at the St. George Hotel, Clark and Henry Streets in downtown Brooklyn. Disco sounds by the Grandmaster, Flowers and Mamboya. That's Saturday, February 15th at St. George Hotel, Clark and Henry Streets, downtown Brooklyn. The BT Express, the Joneses. And Black Ivory. $100 in cash will be given to the best dressed male and female and will be awarded by MC Lamar Renee, your host Elmo the Magic Christian. Tickets on sale at all the usual places or call 771-5292. That's 771-5292. This is indeed a showstopper. Hey, if you want to check out a gig, check out Brother John Lucien at the Club My Way or call 265-0450 for more information.
I wanna blow your mind one time.
Check it out, yeah. W-A, or is that W-B-A-D? Super bad.
Let's make it binding. Unfinished business. Cause I dream it must continue. Have a meeting. Just you and I. Never completing.
One, two. Said, what do you wanna do it? We do it. Hip hip hop, hip hip hop, don't stop too wrong. To the very top. My name is Lee and I am down. I walk your ass underground. I want you, y'all. I don't sit, y'all. I don't stop, y'all. Everybody. Step back. Let me tell you, more love. Like a pantyhose. FX holds. I just like to shake. They throw 4 months on the low tide. I just better call you. Listen to the voice of Master DC Stereo. Get on down. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throwdown? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throwdown? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the Are you ready? Are you ready for the throwdown? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throwdown? One time in stereo, let the dog come at you. Back to the voice of the people. So country Mike. Do it all. There's no short stopping. No conversation. Well, this is nice young ladies out there, y'all. You ain't gonna hop on that. Disco hopping. Super sperm. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throw? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throw? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throw? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the throw? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the down? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the make me feel as though you're partying. Get on down. Get on down. Get on down.
This time to formally introduce you to an intimate relationship between you and I, called sensual intercourse. The initial procedure in developing a very close, yet very profound mental and physical experience is spearheaded by allowing concerning party number 1, which is me, and concerning party number 2, which is you, to become musically
Yes, indeed. Right about now, you're getting down. Checking out the sounds of what's going down. Checking out the sounds of the GM crew.
definitely bad. You know it's got to be for me. You know it's got to be for you. All you got to do is a rock to the funky beat. One time, then say I got a groove that'll make the freak to the funky beat. And then do it. Get up, get out. We're gonna turn this mother inside out. One time. Checking out the sounds of the Grandmaster Flower sounds, DJ Blue. Feel like bustin' loose. Give me the band time, give me the band time. DJ Blue took money, feel like bustin' loose. Let's see what the Grandmaster Flower's gonna do. You see, my name is John B, and I'm a captivated all. Can you dig it? One time, instant replay. We're gonna boogie to the 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 boogie. Get up, get out. Dr. Diesel, my main prize line. I said to bury me deep, and whenever I die, and bury my man Diesel 10 feet from my grave. And get up, get down, and stomp your feet and turn around. Then get up, get down. And punch me in the head, and then I do it again. Then get up, get out. We're gonna turn this mother inside out. We're gonna boogie to the 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 boogie to do it. Non-stop. Say music.
Did you know early on that music would be a path you would take professionally?
Yeah, as soon as I figured out how to mix records, I told my grandmother I'm gonna be a DJ for the rest of my life.
How'd you learn how to mix records? Like, how'd you get gear for the first time?
Okay, the first turntables I had, I stole them during the blackout. It was 77.
Okay,
I did.
Okay,
I was 11. It was wrong. I was actually 10. It was a couple of about a month before my birthday. It was blackout happened in the summer, and it was like a month. So I was 10, but I already knew how to DJ. You know, I knew how to DJ since I was 9. So all I wanted was a DJ set, and I never really put the thought together properly, because if I would have went back a few times. So all I took was the turntables and this mixer. I get home. When the lights come back on, I can't use it because I don't have amplifiers, speakers, wires. I don't have any of the stuff that makes it work. But so for years I had these turntables, and where I learned how to DJ was at my uncle's house, and he had a whole DJ set, but he wasn't a DJ. So that's the thing, I had to learn on my own because he wasn't a DJ.
Okay, got it. And so how did you what was your first break into becoming a DJ, sort of kind of professionally? Like, how did you get that experience under your belt?
I went to a park jam, and Grandmaster Flowers was DJing at the park jam, and he had heard that I was the young kid from Union Street who was DJing, and he let me play in the park jam, and he couldn't believe that I knew records. See, that's the thing, I always was at the records. So he couldn't believe I knew the records. He couldn't believe I knew how to mix the records, and he just let me play for a while. He let me play for just about an hour, and that was it. Like, there was I didn't need anything else to happen to me besides that one moment for me to know that at some point somebody might be asking me questions about stuff. Like I knew from that moment on that like that's it. Like I'm not switching the career path. There's no plan B. I'm gonna be a DJ for the rest of my life. Like that's it. Everything else is gonna come off of me being a DJ. Me learn how to produce records, that's because I'm gonna be a DJ. Me get to work with brands, it's because I know how to be it. I'm a great DJ. Everything that is gonna happen in my life is gonna be based off of the fact that I'm a DJ. So I'm always clear enough to make sure that when you say my name, you put the DJ in front of it, because that's the reason why that thing lives. That's the reason why it's working. That's the reason why you want to ask me questions. You might have a bunch of reasons to your thought, but the base of that reason is because at like 9, I was like, I'm playing these records.
Wow. And so, what was your first kind of professional opportunity that you remember?
I was like 14, playing a club.
And you're in school at this time?
Yeah, but you know, school's out on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday have to happen. So I played a club at like 14, but I was always 6 foot tall. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't look like this crazy 14-year-old. I was tall. I had facial hair, and the thing is, I could do it. So if someone knows and they're talking about it, they're not really going, well, how old is he? They're going, that's the guy from Union Street that does this.
Wow.
And you play clubs and you play parties and you play block parties and you do all of that and you travel around and make sure everybody knows that that's what you do. I can't even imagine what life would have been like if we had social media back then.
Yeah, I mean, it would have changed the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it like for you in school? I mean, this has to be interesting being 14 years old. You're going to class, but you're also pursuing a career on the side. Were you popular in school?
Yeah, I was popular for a minute. I mean, you know, yeah, I was popular.
I mean, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at the time it's either you're a ball player or you're in music.
And I was a ball player, and I played football, and I played baseball, and I was fresh as fuck daily. So I grew up around some guys that kind of wouldn't let you not be cool. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're around that and then you're cool and then you have to go into another atmosphere and then people see you in that atmosphere and they automatically just go, okay, well, he's cool. Well, then you're kind of beating the odds. You don't have to become cool when you walk in cool, if that makes any sense at all. So I went to Brooklyn Tech my first year of high school. I was somewhat smart. By the end of the year, I was being transferred to a school upstate New York for kids that were smart and could be troublesome. And I went up there and I excelled, but I was up there with a DJ set. You know what I mean? So if there was a party on the campus, I played it. If the girls' school that was up the street had a party, I played it. If the school that was another 10 miles away and they needed a DJ, I was known as the DJ that played everything up there. So I'm 14 and I'm growing and life is happening, and then I'm coming home in between. Like you come home at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at the spring break and all of that stuff. You come home. When I come home, what am I doing? I'm in the street. I'm going to find where I need to be able to play a club, to be able to be in a club, to be able to play a park jam. I'm going to do it. And I did it.
You didn't have a car.
Nah.
How'd you carry around all these crates?
You do what you got to do. But you also have to remember, if you're in DJ crews and you might not per se be the main DJ in the DJ crew because you don't have the equipment, but somebody else does, instead of you going to the club, it's a group of y'all going to the club. So you all are carrying records. You're all playing the club. It's just that I might be the best one playing the club. I just might happen to be the youngest, but the best one. But you don't even care about my age anymore because I can play. And that's what was the most important part, the fact that I can play for real.
Where'd your name come from?
My name came from everybody in the neighborhood making jokes because I wear glasses. So they made fun of me and, you Clark Kent glasses, because I had Clark Kent glasses, like from an old Superman TV with the with the black, yeah.
The black frames?
I wore those when I was 5, 6, 7. And the jokes were then. And once I knew that I was going to remain this DJ, I didn't have a name. It was just calling me Clark Kent. But I definitely reminded people, you're going to really feel stupid that you did that. And, you know, they feel
real stupid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then by the time I'm 15, 16, they want to make sure that they're in every party that I'm playing. But you just was making fun of me. You just, a couple of years ago, you thought it couldn't happen. Like, there's no way you're going to be DJing clubs.
And was there a moment, I like to call them breakthrough or oh shit moments. Was there an oh shit moment in this period of your life where you realized, man, I'm really doing this? Like, there is no turning back. I've hit a certain plateau.
I played in Lincoln Terrace Park with Grandmaster Flowers, who is Jesus Christ a DJing at that time. I played in the park. He let me play the set. Like, I didn't see another DJ play the set except him and this 12-year-old.
Can you tell me the story of that moment?
Well, the story is he was doing a park jam at Lincoln Terrace Park, and everybody goes to the park jams. And it's real unsafe to go to Lincoln Terrace Park unless something like this has happened, and that's super unsafe too, because you're a kid, and you know you got everybody else there is older. But I get there and I'm standing next to the DJ booth. They rope it off, but I'm standing next to the rope. I'm practically on the DJ set because I want to see it happen so much. And he's Grandmaster Flowers. DJ Flowers is legendary in Brooklyn, and I just want to see everything. Yeah, if it's something I don't know and he's gonna do it, I'm gonna learn it right then and there. And somebody from our area was like, yeah, and he was like, oh, you're the kid that's from Union Street who could play. And you understand, Lincoln Terrace, Union Street runs into Lincoln Terrace Park. So right at Rochester and Lincoln, Rochester and Union Street is Lincoln Terrace. I live 2 blocks away from there, so I'm in his face, like, what's really good? And he just was like, you want to play some records? And any kid at that point would have said no, but I believed I should be playing records. So I was like, yeah, I want to play. And he was like, go ahead, you could play a couple. And I'm going through his records, but I'm pulling up the records I want to play. And he's going, well, how the fuck does he know the records? So I think that more was crazy to him than the fact that I actually could play. Because it's not mind-blowing that a 12-year-old can mix records. They got 5-year-old kids mixing records now. So it's not mind-blowing. It's just the shit was unheard of then. And how does he know the records? It was more about I believe it was more about how does he know the records? And that was the moment. Like, as soon as I realized, oh, I could play a park jam? Oh, y'all fucked up.
You know, it's something about, I'm reading this book right now. It's called Damn Good Advice for People with Talent by George Lewis. Mm-hmm. I'm going to interview George here soon. George pretty much is one of the creative masterminds of popular culture as far as marketing and advertising. He talks about in his book, never say no to opportunity. Always say now. And that kind of reminds me of that moment for you in the park with Flowers. Just not saying no to the opportunity where some people would kind of shy away from the moment. Yeah. Stepping up to the plate.
Yeah. I don't think there was a possibility of me saying no. Not that day. Because I wanted to do it so bad. And the thing is, like, it's not even like I wanted to do it at that precise moment for the crowd. I just wanted to play the records. I wanted to be DJing, and he was DJing. I'm like, I want to fucking DJ. Like, if you got a DJ set there, and you're the only one playing, and no one else can play, like, I want to fucking play. I could play too. You know, just, I don't know why, but he let me.
They have not acknowledged those who came before them. It is though hip-hop began in the Bronx. It did not begin in the Bronx, and a lot of this music did not begin here. They have been the benefit of those who came before them, which they've made their contribution also. But they're not in no way are they the founders of it.
As the 1960s comes to a close, Vietnam War vets are coming home. Unemployment is at an all-time high. Sanitation workers and teachers are on strike. The city is on the brink of bankruptcy. The hard economic times are visible throughout the city. A new generation responds to the harsh times in a different way. A beat could be felt through the 5 boroughs, and the urban youth began to work the vibes of the city in its own way. This phenomenon, which will later on be called hip-hop, will go worldwide and transform itself into a billion-dollar industry. Rarely do we hear who set up the foundation from which others would build from and borrow from. Who were the founding fathers?
King Charles.
Grandmaster Flowers.
New Sounds.
Pete DJ Jones.
DJ Hollywood.
Grandmaster Flowers.
Johnny Gasmaster. Disco Twins.
New Sounds.
Fitty Machine.
DJ Lance, known as Master D.
Back in the 60s, when Martin Luther King got killed and President Kennedy. We was playing music then. This was before the Bronx thought about it, right here in East Albuquerque.
We was here from 1968.
Like, I never knew a Kool Herc. In my days, I heard of Charisma Funk, Grandmaster Flowers. These guys had sound systems, DJ App. I never heard of a Herc. I'm not dissing Herc, but I'm saying every borough has their thing.
When you take Grandmaster Flash and so many others, he's not the first Grandmaster. He stole the name from Grandmaster Flowers, the original Grandmaster.
I didn't get to hear like Grandmaster Flash until when I started going uptown and DJing at the Renaissance Ballroom.
Then we was doing it with Master D and Fresh Gordon was on the beat. I mean, mind you, everybody was talking that uptown, but nobody knew that Brooklyn was doing it. We was already doing it. You know what I mean? So a lot of things that came across uptown that, that they wanted to take knowledge for it. We was doing it.
Yo, ask Melly Mel and them about Fantasia. Exactly. Ask Melly Mel. Ask Grandmaster Flash about Fantasia. Ask them, they'll tell you when they came to Queens, where they came to. Fantasia, L'Enchilette, right here, South Jamaica, man.
When they first started in the Bronx, man, this thing was ugly in Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
Rapping in clubs in Manhattan before it was even fashionable. Pegasus, Tribecas, with guys like Grandmaster Flowers, Charisma Funk.
That's right. Brooklyn was doing that.
And Brooklyn was doing their thing. And as far as I knew, we were the only people doing it back then.
Things I'm talking about right here, Fab Five Freddy, I'm talking about the era beef that inspired the DJs that created hip-hop. I'm talking these is cats that made it hot, that made you want to be a DJ, that made Herc want to give part, made Flash, and like all them cats would tell you like these was the cats that really put it down, and it was cats from Brooklyn, it was cats from Queens.
He's a coat of swing. It's just about ready to do that thing. I don't want no tears, I don't want no lies. Above all, I don't want no alibis. This judge is hip, and that ain't all. He'll give you time if you're big or small. Fall in line or this coat is neat. Peace, brother. Here comes the judge.
If you studied history, first person to scat is Louis Armstrong. When you hear Rapper's Delight, it almost sounds as if they're giving a tribute to Louis Armstrong.
I'll guarantee that you'll never see like the likes of them again. Stomp your feet to the beat of the Dixie Music Men. Everybody move, get right in the groove. There ain't nothing you can lose.
Now right here is the spot where we'll all get hot with a nasty mess of blues.
The roof is on fire. This was heavily, it's not relevant to anything happening at a party. It's actually a tribute to Malcolm X's Field Negro, House Negro, Field Negro speech, in which he talks about when a Field Negro sees a fire, he wants the house to burn. He welcomes the wind. He wants the house to burn down.
And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two.
One chant in particular that I heard a lot of, which you see how relevant it is to the hip-hop generation, they would do this chant, hold your head up high, Panthers walking by. We're going to clean out your ears, we're going to open your eyes. And when in early rapping, you frequently heard it's almost like a mandate that you had to say dip, dip, die, so socialize, you clean out your ears and then you open your eyes. And you know, this is like a Panther chant. Also of interest is that when you say dibby dibby dies, that's also a Louis Armstrong type of scat. So in a way, you're tying in both Malcolm X and Louis Armstrong.
Yes, just come on, brothers, if you want to hear a story about that preacher and the bear. Gather round, boys, I don't want you to miss none of this here story, cause it goes like this. A preacher, he went out to hunting. It was on one Sunday morning. Though he was one Christian young man, but he took his gun along. Well, the first thing he shot was a bunch of fine quails, and he shot him a nice fat hare. Then through the woods on his way back home, he met a great big grizzly bear.
Frankie Crocker was a super humongous giant, and I think I remember a lot of those DJs, they would be advertising their parties on WBLS back then. You know, I'm talking like in the 70s or whatever, and it was all a part of what made people want to be DJs. Have that dude to get on the mic to really just talk about the DJ. He would maybe say, throw your hands in the air, waving like you just don't care, things like that.
We hooked up with a guy named KC, Prince of Soul. And KC was a master MC.
First MC I can remember was KC, the Prince of Soul, in the 70s. Well, yeah. He was rapping for 1970. 1970. It could have been before then.
One of the first that ever rapped to the beat of the music. One of the first that ever did it.
Right about here, we're gonna let all hell break loose as we turn up the juice. Cause we're gonna take you up the ladder to the roof where we can see everything much better. From there to the sky on a natural high. So I want you to fly, fly, fly. Shake your head and wiggle your thighs. I wanna see a
tight. You had Hank Spann, and that's who KC, the Prince of Soul, tried to fashion himself after Hank Spann from WWRL.
And Hank used to say, put your foot on the rock pattern and don't you dare stop now. This is Hank Spann, wheeling and dealing from now until
WWRL. Hank Spann, put your foot on the rock pattern and don't you dare stop.
And everything Hank Spann would say, I would write it down. I'd get my tape recorder and I would sit down and imitate Hank Spann.
Put your foot on the rock, cause that's your foot, don't stop. Put your foot on the rock. Put your foot on the rock, cause that's your foot, don't stop. Put your foot on the rock.
And the radio was playing, and I'm sitting there, and then I hear the guy, you know, he's rapping on the radio, and I'm like, I could do that. So when I started, if I was a jug of wine, I would be old. If I was snow, I would be cold. But since none of this is true, and I'm right here with you, passing the time, doing what we got to do.
First, people just started talking on the mic, and he was one of them, you know, but they didn't have the full rhythm and didn't turn it over. But if you remember, it was the same music. All they did was do the voiceover, copy the music.
Yes, indeed, y'all, it's about that time to take you one step higher, set your electro bone bus right on fire. You're jamming back with the sounds of new sounds here to put walk light in your stride. One dip in your hip, make your knees freeze. Your liver quiver, crack on your back, and if you can't dig that mess, you got to be at the wrong address, because while everybody's laughing and joking, new sounds will be right here cooking and smoking.
And And that's where the rap started from. And it picked up from there. But it was the same exact music we were playing, and somebody got up there and started talking to us.
Let's go to work. Come on! Let's go to work. Get the bone out your back, boy. Everybody, get the bone out your back, girl. Now, I started doing that by saying, when I say this, you say that.
Then it went into a whole nother era, and then everybody would say to the hip, the hop, the hibby dibby dibby. You know, everybody said that, and that's why I became known as hip hop.
To the break, just keep the same old beat. About a while ago, when I want you to know what you do, you've been listening to. I am the voice of King Tim III. Tell you what I want you to do. A little left hand, right hand in the air, and you swing like you just don't care. You put the left leg out, the right leg in, say the hustlers out, and the rock is it. About a
Grandmaster Flowers was a Brooklyn DJ that was known as the mixologist. He played from the late 1960s to the late 1970s in the parks of Brooklyn and eventually made it to the clubs downtown. He's also noted to be the first Grandmaster.
Flowers came from the Farragut Projects, 237 Nassau Street. He started playing music in the 60s when he was in junior high school. He started out in a club down on Flatbush Avenue, 243 Club, which was down by Flatbush and Myrtle.
I worked with him in the early 70s, but he was doing it much before that. And I have the documented proof with flyers to show you.
One night we were playing at a club called the New World, and one of the promoters there had drawn up a flyer, and he put music by Flowers, the Wizard of Oz. And I took the flyer home, I reworked it, I brought it back, and I named him the Grandmaster Flowers because of the type of music that he played.
On West Indian Parade Day, Labor Day, he used to be the only one in Washington Park playing club music, the mixologist.
He went up against these West Indians. They was called Starlight Disco, I think. Starlight Disco, and then they had the parade going on, and Flowers just plugged his stuff up and started playing. And he tore the whole crowd up. Everybody that was American came over to his side of the park, and that's when I knew he was a tremendous dude, man.
Flowers was so popular just in Brooklyn and Manhattan, his flyer would be on 4 or 5 flyers the same night, and he could not be there.
He knew how to put music together and how to keep a crowd on the floor. I've seen a lot of DJs play the same music that he's played, but they can never hold the crowd.
I used to always go to all his parties back in the 70s. Every Sunday, we used to go to Reese Park. Right, and we used to be there all day until the day end.
When I was in Brooklyn, I used to go to Reese Beach with my uncle, and they would have jams outside. Grandmaster Flowers was the main DJ out there on the beach. You know, you'd have other DJs that was out there, Keith DJ Jones and all the other DJs would be out there, but the cats from Brooklyn, you know, it was like Flowers was gonna be there, you know, so we're like, okay, that's gonna be hot.
In 1974 and 1975, there was a big gang fight out there, and that's when the federal government took over Reese Beach, and they just stopped the music altogether.
It was amongst the first to create a thirst for unique records that nobody else had. Rumor has it, he was the first one to break the song, so Makosa in the United States before the radio stations even had it.
Flowers just played, you know, like just records that you never heard before. To this day, some records I never could ever find.
Everyone was used to playing A-sides, and Flowers would go to the B-sides. But a lot of the newer music that Flowers played, no one else was able to get.
when you heard records, you really wasn't hearing these records nowhere else before. You know what I'm saying? Like the records that any of these DJs played, and I'm talking about the Pete DJ Jones people, I'm talking about Plummer, Maboya, I'm talking about Flowers, the original Grandmaster Flash. That's where Grandmaster Flash got his Grandmaster from. Grandmaster Flowers, a Brooklyn cat.
Flowers, his system, they would steal his speakers, steal his equipment. We would sleep in his van sometimes, so they wouldn't take his equipment so he could play the next day.
It was back in, I think it was the late 80s or 90s. I'm not sure of the date. I found out that the Grandmaster had passed away. You know, even now that I think of it, it's still, you know, I lost a friend. I lost a good friend. To be so close to somebody and just to lose him like that. But he's the Grandmaster. And long live you, brother, wherever you are. As far as his name, Grandmaster Flash, you're not the Grandmaster. I'll give you the respect, but you're not a Grandmaster. There's only one, and he's gone.
By 1972, New Sounds was a group out of East Elmhurst, Queens, known throughout the city in various clubs for their exceptionally fluid mixes. Honing their skills at 127 Park, aka Bootyland, in the early 1970s, they set the standard that many patterned themselves after. With J.D. and Greg Love on the mic, New Sounds was a force to be reckoned with.
Ricky had his own style, and then he had a big sound system to back him up. One of the biggest sound systems, you know, at that age when I was growing up, I said, man, this guy.
The ingenuity of New Sounds was well known through the DJ circle.
Ricky Grant him and his brothers both was like super genius, especially Ricky in mathematics, geometry. I remember the first time we had a battle with him in St. Gabriel's. He built 4 bass bottoms in St. Gabriel's.
When a highly anticipated movie came out in 1974 called Earthquake, it boasted of its new technology with sense-around speakers. New Sounds engineers were able to rebuild the speakers to the same specs, and the term Earthquake speakers came into effect.
The equipment we had, the speakers, were probably the best in the city, and they were hand-built by us. You know, we put the money up, we bought the tools, and we actually got some books, and we worked out the formulas and built the speakers to specs. And we had industrial Sherwin Vegas, Earthquake speakers.
We had the power. You know, when we said that we had over 5,000 watts of power pushing our system, that was no exaggeration.
The mid-range speakers were JBL's 15 and 12 inches. And the mid-bass was Gauss. And the low bass was the Sherwin-Vega Earthquakes. The dampening factor was adjustable.
Ricky Grant was the first one to take a Sony MX-14 mixer and take channels 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and so you control each volume from the turntable. Then from that, he figured out how to wide jack it so you can just go from, instead of 2 to 1. And then from that, slick-ass engineers at GLI saw the idea, copied it, came out with the first 3800. They stole ideas from Ricky Grant.
Once very dedicated to playing music in the parks, which they made a very popular thing to do in Queens, the group moved on to the club scene in the latter part of the 1970s.
You had like a couple of people dance on top of the speakers. Fear of people falling off because it got so crowded, you know, they had to stop the music and tell the crowd to please get off the speakers.
Listen, I asked y'all not to stand on top of them cabinets. Now I'm not gonna ask you no goddamn more. In fact, out of this area, I don't want y'all inside here, sitting on the speakers, back here, out, please.
You know, because that's how huge they were. New Sounds branched off into having their own label. New Sounds. Let's see. Yeah, New Sounds. New Sounds. you know, helping other local brothers and sisters and get albums, put their music together and put it on wax, as they say, you know. But that was the big thing.
Soon the importance of a great sound system to draw a crowd and build a name was every DJ's goal. It was Queens DJ Donnie, the dance master, known for his Richard Long sound system.
One of the nicest guys had to be Donnie Long's dance master. He was like so special. You know, he had a sound system that was so ahead of everybody's. So he outclassed everybody at one time, you know. So I enjoyed working with him because when you put his picture on a flyer, you put his name on a flyer, you drew a certain kind of crowd with him. You drew a really nice crowd. You didn't draw the knuckleheads. So I enjoyed working with Donnie Dance Master for that reason.
Richard Long built the sound systems for Studio 54, the Loft, and the Garage, just to name a few. Donnie acquired the mobile version and blew everyone away.
One of the first DJs that came out with a full system that was the most high fidelity system I ever heard happened to be Dance Master.
The Dance Master, one of the first guys who had a complete GLI sound system, and from that went to the legendary Richard Long.
One day he just showed up with this Richard Long system and our jaws just dropped, because until then everyone was buying pieces of systems and making and amassing their system.
The Dance Master speakers were called Berthas. They were so powerful they could be heard from blocks away.
The first guy to have Berthas and every other type of incredible sound speaker Richard Long could make.
Very clean, very efficient. And that was the systems that were being used in places like Studio 54, the Garage, and a few other major clubs, regimes. Basically, he came up with the first mobile version of that system.
Richard Long owned the patent to the turntable coffin. He was the one who invented the coffin. And the first person that had a mobile coffin was Dance Master, then the Disco Twins. And it was a Richard Long, weighed a ton, need 10 people to lift their coffin.
1979, 1980, we seen Donnie Lawrence with his Richard Long sound system, which was called the Bertha. And he was, I think he was the first one to have a console deck.
The console looked like a coffin. You know, it was very different.
And he was able to come out in the park, 5 minutes, he was plugged in, turned on, and playing.
I would play on the weekends, and big crowd would turn out. Folks would come, sell hot dogs, the ice cream, and you have parents would bring the kids, and it would be a very large turnout.
He used to play right there, every time he could, right there in the softball field, in the sun. Records used to walk. We used to sit out there and laugh at him, and we say, when me and Falk used to say, he's going to be good because he's here every week practicing, playing in front of everybody, and every week the sound got better and better. And like I said, he was the first one playing in major clubs, just bringing his records and getting paid for it. So don't believe none of the crap you hear about this one and that one making money spinning. He was the first one spinning out of the country making money.
Before becoming a full-time DJ, I did played as a guest DJ at Studio 54, Lake Club, Gal Morocco, Paradise Garage, Silver Palace. I belonged to a record pool, and I would get records that none of the DJs could get, because I believe most of these DJs would probably purchase the records then. It was whereas I would get records way in advance that were promotional copies.
Danny didn't spend too long out in the mobile world because of the fact that he had a Richard Long system and had some connections on that end. He went off in Regimes, and Regimes was like the revered club. Aside from Studio 54, who's who in the world came to Regimes.
As As the years go by, the equipment gets better. Belt drive becomes direct drive turntable.
The thing about it in those days, you only had 7-inch 45s.
Right.
It had a limited
Right.
amount. So to play a 5-6 hour party, you were
You had to
stuck in the
carry a
mud,
lot.
man.
Right,
So we had to figure out, you had to be inventive, man. So that's when we started playing the grooves on the record. I learned how to read the grooves. I had me a flashlight to shine on the groove, and I could almost hit the groove every time. Not on beat, but chop it.
Right.
You had to look at the groove of the record, and that was where the funky beat was at, and you would put your needle on that part of the record, and that funky beat would come on because the groove was so heavy.
We never cued music. It was just putting a needle on a record and grabbing it where you thought it was about to begin, and then mixing it in. But there was no cueing back then.
Now, a lot of people saying the scratching wasn't art from Jump Street. It wasn't. Scratching was when you didn't have a cueing system, you keep scratching your records to cue it up.
There was no such thing as a mixer. There was a such thing as a switch.
The GLI mixer is invented. Now DJs could go from one record to another continuously.
So we started playing to stretch our music. Sometimes we play a record at the beginning, in the middle, start it over again, play it at the end until they get tired of it, and then you come with the next record.
Keeping the crowd's energy high becomes easy at this point because the 12-inch record is introduced with longer break parts. The DJs are able to extend the record, and songs are manipulated and mixed in various ways.
Immediately they came out with a whole instrumental side and longer beats, longer break parts in the middle.
It was a big album that spent at 45 speed. And the first 12-inch they ever made was called 10% of Nothing. And it was by Double Exposure.
All the DJs in the circle that I was in, Grandmaster Flowers, Plummer, even the Queen DJs like New Sound and those guys that played around that time, they all did the same thing, played the beat part, had a jump part. It was known throughout the circle that's the jump part.
Mixing records and getting the second record right on beat can now be mastered because of the new cueing system.
And I seen a guy with the headphone. And I'm like, what's the headphone about? He said he's listening to that track while other tracks play. I said, he's listening to the record before it comes on? He said, yeah, that's how we do.
The music that was played in the parks you didn't hear on the radio. This was a subculture. While the rest of the country was watching Soul Train, a culture of sound was being born in the streets of New York. The DJs had no idea what was about to happen. People start traveling outside their neighborhoods to park jams. Everybody's doing it. DJs are popping up all over the city.
Key was learning how to mix Love Is the Message. You can mix Love Is the Message, the original 3-minute version, mix it from start to beginning back again when no one knows it, then you know you're ready to play the party.
Love is the message. Love is the message.
You're always gonna hear Love Is the Message. You could count on that. There were certain joints like that you could count on.
Love Is the Message, used to be known as the anthem in Brooklyn back then.
But back in the days, it was just so fun to see the whole park crowded and just waiting for Lance to throw that one record to make everybody go, ah!
During the late 1960s, King Charles acquires a sound system.
Something's coming over me. Ooh, think it's got a hold on me. Got me. Ooh, just the man I hoped to be. Ooh.
1968, 69, King Charles came to Queens, East Elmhurst. Lived at his aunt's house. Then he just had a couple of speakers, really. After that, he moved in a couple of years on 104th Street. And there, he started to build a system. Basically, even then, he was playing music for fun.
King Charles had a powerhouse system, and he hired the best young talented DJs in his neighborhood to help deliver his music.
King Charles. This is the man, King Charles. He put me on. Falk, stupid ass Raymond. Almost forgot about him. Raymond, if you see this in Florida, fuck you. I still love you though. Spent every dime. Used to take his wife's money to buy fucking equipment. He was the first man to have Crown amplifiers, the first man to have fucking a heavy ass Macintosh amp that weighed 150 pounds. At the end of the night, we used to draw straws. Who with two people would carry the fucking amp?
Charlie had the system.
And then he
dominated everybody and everyone. End of story.
A deep bass abstract reggae rhythm was foreign at the time, but soon blended perfectly with the sound that was being created.
Us as Americans didn't know. We didn't know where Charlie was. It didn't make a difference to us. No. We knew it was a different accent. We knew nothing about Jamaican or whatever the case may be. But see, now it all comes now. Now that 30 years later, now it comes. He came from Jamaica. Now we know why he got those L48s and had all that bass. See, if we would have known about Jamaican music over here in those days, and we were familiar back in the 70s, then we would have said, okay, this is, but we couldn't comprehend.
Jamaicans have always, bass is the foundation of all music, and we vibe on that very heavily.
Only thing we know is one day, we're at 127 Park, here come Charlie, and behind him is everybody. We're like, what are those? Oh man, that's just something I picked up, man. It's the L48s, man. You know, L48s. Everybody looking, what the hell are L48s? These big giant cabinets like this and like this. We don't know what the hell these things are. And then the B36s that he used for bass, everybody else used those just for bass. Yeah. He comes in with those, everybody's like, what are you doing?
Reminiscing his earlier days in Jamaica, West Indies. From studying his idol, King Tubby, he adopts the same style of music and brings it to America.
I really come from this guy named King Tubby in Jamaica. He have this song, you know, every week, strictly every week. He's the one that, you know, he built amplifiers and things like that.
The first guy to put me on the reggae music used to say, here, play this record. Here, play this record behind us. Used to hand me records that I never even heard before. We'd be at a party, yo, play this record. I used to blend them in perfectly. Reggae music. Music that you hear now that's, you know, that's really trash. He had record from Yellow Man.
Zungo, zungo, go, zungo, zen. Zungo, zungo, go, zungo, zen. Say if you have a paper, you must have a pen. And if you have a...
In my opinion, the DJ was a star before the rapper. The DJ was responsible for all this equipment and music coming out. And a lot of times, it wasn't necessarily the guy who was the baddest DJ. The baddest DJ was the guy who could marshal all of this equipment and all of this force and this power. Now, King Charles, who was a heavy hitter in our neighborhood in Queens, could he even cut it all? I mean, I think he was terrible, you know. But that wasn't the point. The point was he could marshal all this, and he would have young bucks. Young bucks would come in there. Yeah, man, cut the record. He was a Jamaican guy. Yeah, man, cut the record. I'll smoke and do all type of thing, man. Yeah, man, go ahead, man. Yeah, man, blah 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 blah. All this now.
King Charles, again, stayed mobile for many years, doing youth centers, etc. And then myself, I morphed off into working with a band, Fragile Package, and going my way towards sound and engineering. And Vernon stayed doing DJing.
Many great DJs who would later shine in hip-hop were influenced by Pete DJ Jones, as his equipment, skill, and connection with the audience set the standard for early DJs.
Girl, you need a change of mind, baby. Girl, you need a change of mind. While marching picket lines, pulling bras and carrot signs. Now I'm more women.
Some of my idols got the Jive, Hennessy, Mikey Crocker, Ken Webb, Gary Bird, all those guys. So I used to try to play DJs. I get me one of those integrated amplifiers, figure out a way to put a mic into it. And I play music and announce the record as I put it on. I got my first job downtown, Pub Theatrical. I rocked the house so good, I got a phone call from this guy one day. And ever since then, we've been like this. This is the guy that made me New York #1. All it is a word if you say it enough.
Pete DJ Jones was the first DJ I ever saw. He motivated me and inspired me to become a DJ. And that's how I got started in the business. You know, I started as a DJ. And following him around everywhere he went, I was there. I was a Pete DJ Jones clone.
The reason why I used Pete so often was the fact that Pete was always on time. If there's one thing that you can trust, I could stay in the bed, no matter where I was, I knew that Pete will be there.
The brother, okay, had Bose speakers. One of the only DJs with some little small Bose. When you left the party, you were soaking wet.
He was known throughout the city before mixers were able to transition music quickly from one turntable to another.
He's the first cat I ever saw use an echo chamber. Pete DJ Jones. The Echoplex.
He would play at different clubs in the Bronx, Harlem, Midtown, downtown, as well as local beaches and parks with great recognition.
Back in '72, as I remember, there was like maybe 5 big DJs. You had Pete DJ Jones, you had Maboya, Smith Brothers, and the Plumber.
When I first saw him, I was 13 years old, and they let me in the club. I had a phony ID too. I went down to 42nd, got one of them IDs that said I was 21. So I went and checked them out at Nemo's and McCoy's and Nell Gwynn's and Pippin's and Superstar Cafeteria and all them spots, man.
In 1971, I won DJ of the Year at the Martin Luther King Pavilion. We had a battle, had about 6, 7 DJs. In 72, I was presented DJ of the Year award at the Hilton, across from Madison Square Garden. No, the Sheridan. Okay. Downtown Sheridan.
Yeah, right. 33rd.
By Melba Moore.
Really?
Yeah. In 1973, at Bonnie Google's, I was awarded DJ of the Year by Faith, Hope, and Charity and Crown Height Affair. Well, I played until I had burnt out around 1976. I decided to buy the same club that guy that rented me the club for my first night. I bought the club from him. And I spent most of my time trying to promote my own club. I did that, and then I bought a club called P&P. Be on Jerome Avenue. And after that, I got tired of clubs. I decided to go back into it. When I got a job teaching school, gave up all my clubs, and I started DJing again around '84. But in the meantime, you had a million different DJs out there claiming they started this and they started that.
Father, DJ Hollywood, was the DJ and MC all rolled into one. Harlem's own, landed work at clubs all over, but settled in at Club 371 in the Bronx.
DJ Hollywood, #1 DJ, started the game as far as I know.
The biggest and most major influence I had was DJ Hollywood. Primarily because of his showmanship and the style and charisma that he brought to his performance.
I was his disco son before there was a DJ Run and a Curtis Blow.
People used to call me the Hollywood dancer. I was like the best dancer in my neighborhood. I remember back when I was a kid, my mother used to have card games on the weekend. They'd be like in a serious mode of gambling, and my mother say, "Boy, put some records on the thing, let us play some records." So I get the 45s, and I put the records on. When a good record played, everybody at the card table was like, "Yeah, and I was like, okay. When I played something that wasn't good, my mother was like, "Boy, why did you play that?" So at a young age, I was introduced to playing flavors. Early in the game, the business of playing music was selling drinks. So I knew how to play drinking music. I knew how to play a record that'll make us say, oh, hey, yo, give me another one of those.
First time I seen him was at a Whispers concert at the Apollo Theater. It changed my life because I seen him. I was just awestruck at the command that he had over the entire crowd.
In the Apollo, they never had dancing in the aisle and all that. This was like, you come, you sit down, you see the show, you enjoy the show, and then you go home. Man, I had them dancing in the aisle. I had them dancing all over everything. People was crazy. And most of the people that came, they didn't know what Hollywood was. They had no idea of what I was about. So this is their first time ever really seeing the DJ go at it. They got little balcony seats up like this here. I had like 3 people on this side and 3 people on that side, and I had like 4 people out in the audience that knew my stuff. When I started rocking it and I'm throwing it, come on, let's go to work. Everybody that's sitting is like, now people are starting to feel it. The guy who owned the Apollo, his name was Guy Fisher. He said, man, this is good, man. I said, well, how good is it, man? I don't see my name on the marquee. He said, you want to see your name on the marquee? When they had a show with like 3 groups on it that take up the whole marquee, he put my name right there. Man, did I feel big. Did I feel big.
Many early rap phrases such as throw your hands in the air and somebody say ho are said to be originated by DJ Hollywood.
Things said that I own that I don't have copyrights for. Every MC, no matter how good he is, had to go into throw your hands in the air. Somebody say ho. These are the type of situations that I stumbled across on my way through just by people responding to what I'm saying. Saying that brings me to the point of, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And everything after that is what you hear now.
Hollywood's famous call and response still amps crowds to this day. By 1975, the Park DJs were competing hard with each other as more and more DJs joined in.
Like in any sport, there's always some type of competition. You always have to. You always want to be up over the next man. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, everybody had their little thing. Disco Twins, us, East Elmhurst, Corona, Queensbridge.
Brooklyn was into sound systems and the records you had. Uptown was into MCs and step shows. The Bronx was into having records before the other crews had records and spraying them out. And Queens was into the echo chamber and 50 million speakers. So Brooklyn used to really compete with Queens a lot.
Who had a better system? Who just got a better turntable, better amplifier, better speaker? I just got this, I got that. I got this record first.
Who's spinning there? It was about what DJ was spinning. It really wasn't even about an MCB. It was about, who's playing them records? Because his sound system was right. And that's the other thing, once again, about Brooklyn and Queens cats. The sound systems was super clear, powerful. Like, that was really the foundation of everything. Just the way the speakers would be stacked up, man. It would be like worshiping at an altar, baby. To feel that bass and hear them incredible records.
At that particular time, the DJs were into loud speakers, jumbo, gigantic speakers that you see in Madison Square Gardens.
You had Jamaica sounds, you had Cypher sounds, you had solo sounds, Davey DMX. I mean, we were strong with that sound set, same as it was in Jamaica. Like in Jamaica, West Indies, the DJ was the prevalent force. Okay. For us, the DJ was serious.
Everybody wanted to be like New Sounds. So we used to buy equipment, practice. Originally spinning on the first turntable, Pioneer PL12D belt drive. First turntable with an S tone on, not a Technique. Technique came out 2 years later. SL1200, first version.
The first one, even before the Pioneer, was some type of plastic type from Radio Shack, Gerard. They were good turntables, but they were belt driven, and a belt drive turntable is not good for mixing.
Right, you can't adjust the speed in any kind of way.
It's better. Direct drive is a better mixing turntable. It's better for scratchers, better for everybody, because it's the way you pick up is much quicker, and the drag is less.
It's a Gerard turntable. That's a GLI 3300 mixer.
Okay.
And I was the only DJ in New York that played with his turntables side by side. Ain't never seen nobody do that but me. Never seen nobody do that.
Times were very tough to mix in. It was relatively a challenge because they had the rubber bands, and we figured if you could mix on those, you would become like a pro. Then I tried the 1100s, and then it just became so easy because they had these pitch controls. It was just like a breeze.
The first turntable I ever used was a SL23 by Technique. Was a belt-driven turntable.
The DJs of today have a real big advantage in regards to the equipment that they're using now, because back in the days when we first started, I know I myself, I first started DJing on Technique D1s, which was like crazy to actually manipulate.
1500s, 1700s, 1800s.
I used that 1800 until I later got onto them 1200 MK2s, which was probably the third version that they put out of 1200s if nobody knew.
At the stoplights, you know, you had a bullet tweeter so the sound would vibrate off the cars or something.
The tweeters are actually the same as the professional tweeters. What they use them to is to detect traffic and control the lights.
Everybody was stealing the bullets off the stoplight. Every stoplight in town, they had to put a cage over them, man. So everybody had about 6 bullets. Bang, wow, bang, bang.
Loud, ain't it?
I even when I got me a big EV horn from the subway station.
So we used to go around through the neighborhoods and climb up the poles and take the tweeters down and use them. Actually, one night I was climbing a pole like this, and a cop car came by. The 2 cops, they stopped, they looked at me. Oh, what are you doing, climbing poles? I said, yeah. And they just kept going.
Put it on a round board and attach it to a chain, and we'll try to hoist it up, and it would make that hissing sound. It would make a big difference in the sound of the music. The crowd would just go crazy.
Don't be a slave to your passion. I'm talking about freedom.
Infinity Machine was a force that had thousands going to South Jamaica, Queens to witness DJ Divine and that monster sound system. Nestled in the tree-lined neighborhood, Infinity Machine was sure enough in control.
1974. I remember going to 127 Park and seeing New Sounds. Actually, I went with my father. We were visiting a family relative in Corona, and we went to see New Sounds and just was impressed from what they were doing. It started about 1974. We got together, developed the name, took 2 Bose 901s from a home system and a receiver and a couple of turntables and a mixer, and started DJing. And as time went on, the group grew, and so did the equipment as well. We really became active in about 1978 when the equipment started being able to handle outside park.
Madison Square Garden. Crazy Eddie, who was the sole distributor of Sherwin Vega. Michael Goody's father went in there and bought $20,000 worth of Sherwin Vega equipment in one clip. 77, bought all that equipment for his son, went across the bridge to the Ford dealership, bought his son the brand new, at the time, Ford 77 Supervan, which no one had even seen, first year body style.
Knowing to brag about how many watts they had, Infinity Machine was the real deal.
This man here, Michael Goody, showed us what technology and electronics was all about, because we was taking receivers and amplifiers, and that's what power was all about, when we was just piecing together sound systems. And Goody came out and showed us how a whole fucking system's supposed to look. Most of the DJs like we hear now, we respect the Disco Twins and King Charles and all of them, but all things being for real, Cypher Sounds, Infinity Machine was making noise throughout the whole Queens.
We had Sherwin Vegas, L48, B36.
That's what I said. Infinity Machine, Divine and Infinity Machine. You talking about thousands of people.
I've been hearing stories that people was on Rockaway Boulevard. We're talking about maybe 4 or 5 blocks past the highway. They used to say, yo, you hear that? Hear what? Oh, yeah. That sound like rain. No, that's Infinity Machine and Cypher Sound in the park playing. So they used to always come down there.
Something Boulevard, you could hear it. Boom, boom, boom.
Brooklyn's own Master D was able to keep his popularity from his early days of DJing till this day without interruption.
He's got the power every hour. He's the reason why my face is all aglow. Just one kiss from his lips is like taking vitamin C. Oh, you can't imagine what my doctor does to me.
I would see people like Master D from Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Von K, Keithy B, and all those cats. I would follow them from parks and projects and block parties throughout my neighborhood, you know, from LG to Albany, you know what I'm saying? Like 44 Park Soul in the Hole, you know, parties at Sumner Avenue Armory, where before it really was named, it was like a combination of like, you know, what was known as disco, but like just great music.
Me and him had the same name. And I was like Grandmaster D and he was Master D. Okay. His name was Lance and Frankie D, yes, all of them. Yes, but Lance was Brooklyn to me. Me and him embraced each other. Right. And this was before Houdini.
Of course.
This is before Houdini.
Of course.
And then I said, yo, this is what I want to do.
We had many DJs on the street. You had Frankie D, you had Charisma Funk.
I learned from the master right here. This is also known as the bass master in Brooklyn. Frankie D had the best bass in all of Brooklyn. You got to say this.
I started with my little bass speakers and our little house, my Jensen speakers. Next thing I know it, I had Vegas. Next thing I know it, I had Berthas. And then as I was growing up, I kept remembering, there's a guy in Roosevelt. So he kept making noise. So he hung out with me one day, and next thing I know it, DJ Lance got on the map.
But far as this rapping and cutting and scratching, it was Master D, Von K, and my crew, Keithy B. We took the streets of Bed-Stuy and most of Brooklyn.
We was kind of like, how you say it, ghetto fabulous. Ghetto fab stars in the hood. Hood famous. And accessible hood stars, not the ones who hide behind them big gates and gated mansions now. Yeah, we talking about they rap and they hip hop. They was all these brothers here was all touchable, reachable. You saw them every day.
We used to go to LG and play in 270 Park, Tompkin Projects, Sumner Projects, you know, especially our home, Roosevelt. That's where everybody knew us from, Roosevelt Projects.
Ask your moms and your auntie and them about it. They was out there shaking and wiggling to the beats of land. They knew what it was all about. You know, my man got on that mic. This is Master D in the house. You knew what it was. You already knew.
I remember like yesterday, Lance playing there and thousands of people in the park
Showing
doing
up.
his thing.
Just
doing
showing
his
up.
thing.
I changed my name from Master D to DJ Lance because At one time, I was switching over into this club era, and I just felt it was best to be known as for your real name.
Mind you, when he made the changeover to DJ Lance, it took a while because everybody knew him as Master D. So when he switched up and said, "Yo, I'm about to take it to another level," DJ Lance, we was lost. We was like, "So what are you saying, man? You got to move on." So he did what he did. He moved on.
Master D, now DJ Lance, retains his national recognition and involved with the changes in equipment, computers, and music. A skilled DJ that could keep him moving even 3 decades later.
Master D was a beautiful run. It was beautiful. But right now as DJ Lance, I'm still playing 30 years down the line, and I'm playing heavy. I'm playing from Tuesdays to Sundays. I get one day off to relax. I'm traveling the world with different promoters, and I'm loving it.
You still got it in them, man. You stay booked, you stay getting from not just from borough to borough. I'm talking about DR, Aruba, stuff like that, man. You know what I mean? This man is everywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Disco Airlines Flight 78. Our captain tells us we'll be flying very high.
Out of Astoria Projects, the Twins together with DJ Smalls and Sesame on the mic, provided a jam not to be forgotten.
Seattle?
Well, it started off with a house party, and we had a friend that had a guitar system. He used to play the guitar. His name is Michael Trapp. And we asked him, could we use his amplifier so we could do our party? And the party became a success, and we decided to try to take it to another level.
Back in the days, these gentlemen had one of the top systems in the country. Not in the city, not in the state, in the country.
They had these speakers that was called birthers. And these guys would go everywhere with them birthers, hook them up, and take people out.
Bertha is like two 18-inch speakers.
Big as this chair.
It's like 64 by 35 and a half. And you have extensions in the front that brings the speaker out, look like a big giant horn.
It's about 10 foot.
Yeah,
10 feet.
You would have to go to one of the major clubs in the city to hear the sound system the way it was projected back then. It was just so pronounced. It hit you right in your chest and literally knock you to your knees. It was just unreal. If you could just imagine stuff like Catch a Groove and this. Every time they would, it was like thunder coming out of the sky. It was like, you know, it was no joke, man. You know, I can't stop. It was like definite, you know, and you know, just to have two twin brothers and the routines they did. I think I'm one of the few, maybe 5 people who actually tell them apart back then.
There was no one that could really compete with us back then. The rival we had was King Charles was one of the rivalries.
Right.
The other one was
Infinity Machine.
Infinity Machine.
They're the only rivalries we had.
They were the only ones.
The Twins made it entertaining by doing all sorts of tricks on the turntables, taking it to another level.
The Disco Twins, twin brothers, was the first to run around turntables, to spin behind their back, do all type of stuff that, you know, that everybody thinks started with the Executioners, Q-Bert, and this, that, and no, it didn't. It started right here in Queens.
He used to get on my shoulders, and we used to do spin around the turntable,
play backwards. We did some feet stuff, our hands, those kind of little things. We was just doing that basically for entertainment.
The Disco Twins mastered all aspects of the game, from mixing, scratching, and promoting.
Not only were they're skillful on the turntables, but people that didn't know about the skills would just want to rent their system to have it so they can perform on it.
I used to always pass through Disco Twins. They were so enormous. They were like a legend, you know what I'm saying? I mean, technically, the way they set up their system, the way they moved as a machine, the Twins, like business-wise, is something that people don't talk about. I mean, these brothers owned like taxi cabs and frank stands and real estate, so they moved like such a machine. I used to always watch them.
Plugging into the streetlights for power to boost park jams was a common scene in the 5 boroughs.
DJs was mixing, scratching was just starting to happen, but those are DJs that really set it off and made, having a system, having, your speakers, your records and whatever, and just bringing that music into the streets. That's that classic era of breaking the whole, breaking the street light open.
Those were the days when we didn't have generators. We would take a 100-foot extension cord and wrap it around a light pole and plug in, and it was light, sound, and music and dancing.
It was crazy. There'd be hundreds and hundreds of people. We would jam for hours nonstop.
I remember the first time I learned how to do that. I watched somebody open up the little panel on the bottom of the pole, and it was like there was a plug in there. We were like, why is that there? But I guess it was when cats used to work on it or whatever like that, work on the light pole. We plugged it in, and boom, the power came on. We were like, what? You can't be serious. So once we found out that was going on, that was a big experience for us, man. We then knew that we could do jams outside, anywhere, and not have to worry about where the power was coming from.
What I remember about that scene was, just a lot of fun. It was comparatively brand new. The park jams held a lot of promise each and every day. The DJs were the sound you could hear for blocks. You could hear it, from my house on 31st Avenue. You could hear what was going on 25th Avenue. Or vice versa. And each, it seemed like on the weekends in the summertime in particular, there were park jams going on all around our neighborhood. They were all within walking distance. You could go to 127. You could go to 92 Park. You could go to 143. And just to name a few.
We used to always do all kind of things out here in 127 Park, blow out the street lights and just party, have no problems, no fights, no arguments, not anything whatsoever. We partied. We had ourselves a good time. It was about the party. It was about the atmosphere. Right. It was about the love. It may sound corny to y'all, but we got to come back to that.
No harassment from the police, which at the time was only the 114 precinct. They let us play 4 o'clock in the morning. They didn't care because they knew everybody was here. No problems.
Like in my hood in Bed-Stuy, like the cops really would let you do your thing because you would have all the wolves, all the real aggressive teenage energy that would be out there causing drama, really, partying and really being tame, you know what I'm saying, while you was enjoying that music and getting a chance to get at them neighborhood cutie pies and all that.
Even within New York, each borough was an entity unto itself. I mean, it was like a whole nother world. When you were in the Bronx, you almost never left the Bronx. That was kind of your world. Same thing with Brooklyn. It was so vast that you never really had a need to leave that area. Very rarely, if you did at all. Queens was the same way.
Master D, whenever that set was there, we was there. There was no partying from Harlem and you coming down here, and from Queens and you coming down. It wasn't none of that. And we was in your hood. We was in Queens. We was in Harlem. We was in the Bronx. This was real talk.
Brooklyn was just like, Planet of the Apes. Nobody wanted to go there. Nobody, it was like,
We didn't care where it was. As long as we could pull out our set and play, we didn't care about it. Because they was going to end up loving us anyway.
They could fill cathedrals. They could fill cathedrals, baby. Cathedrals.
Back in the days, we had a little bit of a rivalry between King Charles, New Sounds, but we all had respect for one another.
We were so-called friends, but we also battled each other. Everybody wanted to know what was number one, so we would just come out there and, blast it out, see what could bring out the most crowd.
We battled, but we battled for publicity. we didn't battle because we didn't like each other, because we had love. That's what it was all about in Queens. Everybody in Queens, DJs, that was in that circle of Infinity Machine, we just knew each other and we just had love for each other. Faye Street, Sound Experience, Supreme Sound, Cypher Sound, all of us, we just had love, and it was just a lot of love out here.
Like the time Goody and them got squatted. The twins had them crying outside IS-8. The twins came in there with 2 birthdays and 4 speakers on the pole. Richard Long crushed them. Goody coming out there, first guy with a bald head too, not Michael Jordan, Michael Goody. Bald head, shaking his head, like I don't believe it, the Disco Twins, yo. And then not only did they crush them sound-wise, they did all that trick shit, running around the turntable, spinning behind their back.
We came to the IS-8 with 6 speakers, 2 Berthas with Levan, and 2 Americanas and Ultimas. No, 2 Americanas and 2 Ultimas and 8 ring radiators. And we came with 1 amp rack. They came into the gym bringing a load of speakers, and they went home and got more speakers to come and try to take us out. They had L48s, V36s, B36s. They had no folded horns, and they had a whole bunch of array of speakers.
We had a couple of things. I remember what I heard, that the Berthas that the twins got, they went to Richard Long, and they got them from him. They rented them to come to our party and battle us. And what we did was we in turn went out to Crazy Eddie's and we bought new equipment. So it was the same thing. It was who did what.
Y'all got to get that right. Y'all did not blow us away, and y'all only came with those 25 speakers. I'm not trying to diss y'all, whatever it is, but we was very efficient with what we have.
But it was 2 against 1. It was the twins against me. What happened? But you my homeboys. I love y'all, man. I love y'all.
The dances out there at the time, it was hustle. You know, the 6-step hustle and variations of the hustle. That was very popular. And then you had the freak.
It was just where they jamming at. You know what I mean? Who's in the park? Yo, baby, where they at? Where they jamming at? Like, what park are they in? You know what I mean? I can remember, like, being a shorty sitting on my stoop on Hancock Street on a hot, quiet summer night. And when it got just quiet enough, you could hear the bass from somebody's speakers, like, all the way in Albany Projects or St. John's Park or whatever. Be like, yo, they jamming up there, y'all. Da-da-da-da.
The thing about it, each one of those park jams had its own dynamic and its own personality. You know, like the 127 was kind of our thing. That was kind of like our home base. So we felt more comfortable there than anything else. We could go there early and play some ball, then go back, switch up, come back a little later with our fresh, our fresh gear, whatever. You know what I mean? That was our home thing. If we were going to 143 and we were going to 92, a little different neighborhood, a little different concerns. We couldn't go there completely with our guards down. You know, we had to go there with our minds right to have fun, but also kind of be mindful. But the music is what held us and is what what really inspired us. The music was so powerful on us that's what allowed us to go into like enemy neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Why else would we do that? You know, because the music was there and the girls were there.
Our competitiveness had a certain spirit to it. Like we would go to something called the Ave, which is Jamaica Avenue, 165th Street, Jamaica Avenue, the mall, and we get the belts from, Mr. Lee's, get the fresh sneakers. The competition was like competing to have a good time. So it was almost like spirit energy.
We rocked the ski hats different. We rocked the ski hats like straight up in the air, and just like look like a big freaking hip-hop pirate. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but it's like, look like a big shark. My hat is like a Sharks fan,
we're talking about a time period where people wear Converse and Pro-Cats, where you could go to the supermarket and get your sneakers, and they called them skips if you had something other than Pro-Cats or Converse. That was a time period. And, the short pants that brothers wore, they came down just above the knees, and they're kind of tight fitting. The t-shirts they see people wearing now, what they call the wife beaters, they were popular back in the 70s.
Probably see my man here on the left back in the day, the furry Kango, fat ass Playboys, the Mac.
Back then we had Playboys, we had Playboys, British Walkers, mock necks, silver medallions.
Bring your dancing shoes out, you know, have that gear tight, two-piece tailor made from Moon.
A lot of the niggas like Run DMC, they was emulating us. The Lee suits, the Borsalino velour hats that you saw, we was rocking them already before they was doing DVDs. Then when you seen it on them. We had already made that alive.
They took it worldwide.
They took it and then they brought it out of the hood. That was really a South Jamaica kind of style. Now Brooklyn, they had the Beavers with the oil. Oh yeah, slick alligator look and shit like that. That's Brooklyn. But we had the Borsalino velours, alpaca sweaters, the mock necks. You saw that, the leather blazers. We was doing that. We wasn't playing, man.
I'd like to welcome the Disco Twins in the house, along with New Sounds.
Jeff Harris was one of the first promoters to bring outside DJs to St. Gabriel's. He was the first one to bring Flowers, Maboya, The Plumber, to battle King Charles, New Sounds.
Promoters, see, without the promoter, they don't get work. If they don't get work, they don't get known, they don't get exposed. So I used to promote Grandmaster Flash, Plumber, Riff & Cliff, Maboya, Pete DJ Jones, New Sounds, King Charles, Downey Dance Master, Disco Twins. These are the DJs that I constantly was promoting.
Crown Heights Affair, The Dream in a Dream, BT Express, Double Exposure. Jeff, other than whoever's left as a black promoter, I think Sun Song Production, Al Heyman and them, Jeff used to get all the top-notch acts. They used to perform at St. Gabriel, basically a gigantic gym.
What I would do, I would study the charts. When I hear a new R&B group would come out and they had a hot single, I would go right to the booking agent, try to book that group, and I had success, and I would book the group. For example, Double Exposure came out, I had a record called My Love Is Free, hot, just killing that record. $1,500 for that group to come to St. Gabriel's, Queens, right? But the record was hot, and the night that they performed, I mean, this north side of Queens had thousands of people, but we couldn't believe how many people came to that event.
Big DJ, Baby J, New York City, Roseland, holding it down for 10 years. I feel that I did something to bring out hip-hop, freestyle, you know, with my promotions. I mean, I entertained thousands of people per night. So that's more than what, a lot of other people could say, and I'm really proud of that. USA, it was a roller skating rink that was in Queens that opened a lot of doors for me, and I was the first one to bring in New Edition when they just came out of Boston with Candy Girl, and we were the first ones to bring in Run DMC, all those local groups and stuff like that.
I would say M. Morton Hall was the biggest promoter.
M. Morton Hall was one of the giants of all times.
I've been involved in music for, I would say, approximately 40 years or more. The first party that I did was in 1959, 58, 59. We have multiple personalities, especially black folks. And I find myself, at times, in the background. It's the part that I've much preferred during the course of my life. rather than be in front of a camera or whatever.
One of the first promoters that used to book flowers for parties.
I don't think there's any other promoter in the city of New York that has done the 4 boroughs.
Right.
I did parties in Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and here in the Bronx and Stardust. I was one of the owners of the ruling class. Also had another club on Merrick Boulevard, further down, where the Delphonics performed, the Moments, before they became Ray Goodman and Brown, etc., Kool and the Gang, blah, blah, blah.
As the DJs refined their work to impress the crowd, the culture of hip-hop was born and took shape. The founding fathers all participated in the evolving culture until this very day grows.
No disrespect to any of the masters of who mastered this business and has been in this business. There were no Kool Hercs, African Barbadas. They weren't around when I was talking.
They're late. They're about 4 years too late.
When I went to the Bronx was like out of reach. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't nobody doing nothing in the Bronx. This is what, 73, 74? Wasn't nobody doing nothing in the Bronx.
We was doing our thing before shit popped off. And we got the flyers and the records and the posters from back then to prove it. We was in Autobahn Ballroom uptown. We was in the Hotel Diplomat. We was in the Renaissance. We was there. Cypher Sound Infinity Machine was right there. A lot of times, those niggas didn't really even have sound systems. They had the piece together shit that I was talking about.
All Queens DJs had nice sets, yo. And let's not take another way from uptown. It was nice, the house speakers, and y'all did your things, and the crews and all that. But, hey, baby, don't act like you know.
Uptown, far as systems, I ain't hear about none of that until after all that. Far as Brooklyn and Queens was the king of the systems.
Queens has its own unique history pertaining to hip hop and that whole DJ MC thing, and very often it's been said and using different types of metaphors about how, we started this and we started that. I didn't know nothing about none of those cats uptown. Every person I knew about back in the days outside of the Twins was DJ Hollywood, was Eddie Cheever.
I'm not going to argue the point. Now, I will say that these guys took it to another level.
Okay, good.
Took it to another level. But the idea, I can't give them the idea.
I used to spin in the Constellation Ballroom on Thursday night. I let Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 in free on my guest list, because no one didn't give a fuck who they was.
Run with the game is called hip hop. Don't want to include me in that for the simple fact they say I'm disco. Disco wasn't even invented when I started playing music. If I'm disco, a whole piece of my history is still missing.
I believe it came from many different places. It didn't just start here. It started in Astoria, it started in Queens, it started in the Bronx, it started in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Everybody had their own spin on it.
It's hard to say who started what, because hip-hop was a development. It developed and it evolved around certain things, and it became better. Just like how you look at these young kids playing basketball out here. You didn't see a 15-year-old boy dunking the ball back in the 70s and 80s, but now everybody dunking. So what it was just practice, and it just developing into certain things, and it's just that the camera was there in different locations in the Bronx and Manhattan, and they got the shot to say it. But it's like Christopher Columbus. He didn't discover America. When they came to Queens, we was already doing it.
There are things that say hip-hop has a culture. Hip-hop is based on like 5 different elements that make hip-hop hip-hop. And I'm like a little myth with that because of all the elements they say about hip-hop. My only contribution to hip-hop has been the spoken word. There's hip-hop fashion, there's hip-hop graffiti. Throughout all of those elements of hip-hop, if it was just graffiti, or if it was just fashion, where would hip-hop be? If it was just people dancing, where would it be? Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but if it wasn't for the spoken word, chances of this being as large and as satisfying and as dear to people, I don't think that this would go 2 blocks as opposed to going around the globe, around the world. When people see Michael Jordan and they say he's the greatest player ever, they're almost right. And anybody would say, well, yeah, because Dr. J was before Mike and he changed the way this game is, and they would be almost right. But there's a guy named Connie Hawkins that most people don't know. That this whirling dervish game that Michael Jordan now holds the platform for started with him. And a lot of people don't know beginnings of mostly anything. Usually the inventor of whatever it is never gets the chance to get to shine out of it, and they never get to see the money that's generated behind it. Whenever they want to speak on hip-hop in any shape, form, or fashion, if it don't start with me, that's a story you're watching that left out the meat of the story, that's all. You understand? They bypassed the beginning of that story and went to the next phase.
Once upon a time, girl, like the nursery rhyme, yeah. The way we made our love affair, all those dreams we have to share. Can't you feel our love is growing? Can't you see our love is showing? Ain't it just a trip, girl? I feel like I'm in paradise. Ooh, when you're holding me tight, I feel like I'm a king on a throne. When we're sitting all alone, and when we kiss, ooh, my head's in total bliss. I feel like the whole world is mine. We got our own thing. That's you and me for you. We got our own thing, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. We got our own thing.
We got it.
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 What are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
Have a good time.
I believe her. I really believe her. Can I come to Bermuda and have a good time too?
Yes, you can.
Distinguished young lady.
I have nothing else to say, Tommy.
We love you in New York. Bermuda, are you ready? I don't think Bermuda is ready for you ladies. What are you going to do when you get to Bermuda?
Have fun.
I think I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and I'm going to Bermuda myself. What are you going to do when you get to Bermuda?
Take a nice clean swim.
Ooh, what are you going to do when you get to Bermuda?
When I get to Bermuda, I just have fun, like I just groove on everything there. Just have a good time.
My gosh, all these people are going to be in Bermuda and I'm going to be in New York. What are you going to do when you get to Bermuda?
Have a ball.
Oh, I have to go. Do you feel a little bit closer to Bermuda?
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay, Kenny, I'm gonna go. Ready? Let me know when you're ready.
Would you come out on the stage and take a round of applause? Ms. Hazel Benson, please step into the center of the stage. Ms. Hazel Benson, please, and take yours up to God. Also, Mr. Cliff Small, our host and hostess. Cliff, take her by the hand, please. Take her on the stage. Hazel Benson and Brother Cliff Smalls, a circle of acquaintance who put it all together for y'all tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. Professor Hazel, we want to say thank you so very much. And from Mahogany, a special thank you to all of you. Yes, all the contestants to please.
It is though hip-hop began in the Bronx. It did not begin in the Bronx.
You know what I'm saying? Wasn't nobody doing nothing in the Bronx.
Those niggas didn't really even have sound systems. They had the piece together shit that I was talking about.
As the 1960s comes to a close,
hip-hop began in the Bronx.
And wasn't nobody doing nothing in the Bronx.
Hip-hop began in the Bronx.
Those niggas didn't really even have sound systems. They had the piece together shit that I was talking about.
It did not begin in the Bronx. It did not begin in the Bronx.
Bronx was like out of reach. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't nobody doing nothing in the Bronx.
Those niggas didn't really even have sound systems.
Hip-hop began in the Bronx. Hip-hop began.
Those niggas didn't really even have sound systems.
Hip-hop began in the Bronx. It did not begin in the Bronx. Hip-hop began.
Those niggas didn't really even have sound systems.
So, hip-hop began.
Thank you very much. Flash about Fantasia. Ask them.
All right, so we are here in Brooklyn. Now I see this Founding Fathers thing they got on there. Brooklyn DJs, Flowers, Mamboya, Pete DJ Jones. What's the deal? What's your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen it. I've heard bits and pieces of it. And I guess the discrepancy is that they're claiming to be the founders of hip-hop, specifically.
Right.
And that they try to negate the stories of Bambaataa and Herc and everybody else.
Right.
Okay, so here's the situation. First of all, Brooklyn has nothing to do with the founding of hip-hop.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They were DJs, and I remember Flowers. I've been to Flowers parties.
Okay.
He's a DJ.
Right.
And a well-known DJ.
Right.
But him, similar to Pete DJ Jones,
right.
They were disco DJs.
Right.
And what people need to understand is hip hop, or what came to be known as hip hop, started. It was a very specific type of music.
Right.
It was very specific records.
Okay.
It was very specific type of dance, very specifically b-boys.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And Brooklyn wasn't about that at all. Neither was Manhattan. Okay. Manhattan came in a little later on with Donald D and B Fats doing their thing up in the Audubon and in the Rennie. Okay. So in Manhattan, they were kind of the first dudes to start playing more hip hop type music.
Okay.
All right. But that's in the late 70s, 77, 78, 79.
Right.
All right. Brooklyn very specifically is the hustle borough. They're like, you know how we say in hip hop, our theme song was Apache. Because that was the major b-boy type of an anthem. Well, for Brooklyn, their theme song, and anybody who party in Brooklyn, they can't deny this. Their thing is love is the message. You go anywhere in Brooklyn, that song is playing. Love is the message. And MFSB. And their thing is hustling. The dance to hustle.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And Brooklyn was known for that.
Okay.
And that's more of a disco type of a thing.
Right.
Grandmaster Flowers was nasty in terms of disco. He could mix it, but he's a disco DJ.
Right.
All right? Later on, he may have started playing some hip hop stuff. And in fact, my man, a kid named Aaron Reimer, but it's called Aaron the Baron.
Okay.
He became the MC for Grandmaster Flowers.
Okay.
And that's in the late 70s. And Aaron is from the Bronx. And Aaron himself was not, Aaron and Leo, all right?
Okay.
They were not hip-hop DJs. They played more disco music. They're from Co-op City, okay?
Right.
And Aaron started hanging in Brooklyn, and he became, hi, how are you? He became the MC for Grandmaster Flowers.
Okay.
And so Flowers may have started playing some hip-hop music later on, but they're not in the beginnings.
Right.
And very clearly, like I said, their thing was disco. And that's what people understand. Even in the Bronx, you have cool DJ D and Tyrone. D and Tyrone, they played music for us that was hip-hop music.
Okay.
But they were really disco DJs. They were the only ones out of Bam, Mario, and all of them. D and Tyrone were playing in clubs.
Right.
They were playing like Constellation, the New Yorker. They were playing, they were like Pete DJ Jones.
Right.
They played disco music. And D and them, they were really like, I heard you talk about with D and them.
Right.
They were the first ones to really have real DJ equipment like a coffin and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And when they played b-boy music, they did that for us. Right?
Okay.
But they were really disco DJs.
But they were spades, though.
Oh no, they're spades, no question.
They're spades. Right.
No.
So they was there.
They're there in the beginnings
for the culture.
Yeah. They're there in the beginnings.
Right.
They're there in the beginnings. But Brooklyn,
Right, Brooklyn.
That's
right.
not. You know. And so they claim him Maboya. Maboya, he's one of the earliest DJs. There's no lies about that.
Right.
He's one of the earliest DJs.
Right.
Okay. Flowers, one of the early. I remember Flowers playing up in the Stardust Ballroom. And the Stardust Ballroom was a disco, no hip hop. They did not do that. All right, that's Cool DJ Rock and the Come Off Crew, P. DJ Jones, Godfather Productions. These were older people, and they were not into hip hop. They did not like our music. They did not like us dancing because you know, mostly sneaker cats. You know what I mean? So they weren't into any of that.
So you saying they rejected the b-boys?
They rejected us. They were not into that at all. That includes Pete. Pete didn't start really playing b-boy music till like 79, 80.
Right, so later on they got into hip-hop.
Later on they got into hip-hop, but they were not into that. And I remember when Pete started playing, because it was Easter Sunday, I think 79 or 80, in the Stardust Ballroom. And he put on Life on Mars, and then he started putting on James Brown and Apache, and we were all in there. Me, my man Breakout, DJ Breakout, we were all there, and we're like, yo, he never played this kind of music. And we're b-boy, and we started breakdancing with shoes on in the Stardust Ballroom. And people were pissed off. They were like, he's playing that music, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
And
you know what I mean?
And that's Pete DJ Jones.
Yes, Pete DJ Jones.
Okay.
He was not a hip-hop DJ until later on.
But
And see, and that's the thing people don't understand.
Right.
We're not saying they never played it.
Right.
They did eventually.
Right.
Because they catered to the crowd. That's where the money was.
Right.
But they were not hip hop DJs initially, and they were against it. They were adamantly against it. And their crowd, the people who went to their parties, they were against it. They did not like us. So remember I told you about the word hip hop originally being a derisive term? People did not like B-boys because they felt we were coming to break up their parties. They saw us as thugs, things like that. You know, I went to parties because I would wear shoes too. You know what I mean? And my friends, I went to Bronx Science, so my friends who were not into that, they were into the DJ thing, and I could hustle. You know what I mean? So I would go to those parties and I'm having shoes, and I'm not b-boying at those particular parties.
Okay.
But I was very clearly a b-boy.
Okay.
And like I said, I was with Bambaataa and Flash and Cool Herc parties and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And Mario.
Right.
You know, like I've always told you, Mario doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Right.
I've said that on tape. I will always say that.
Right.
But, you know, all the other discrepancies, you know.
Right. I don't want them to try to put Mario in the same box with Pete DJ Jones.
No. Mario played b-boy music.
Right.
He played disco stuff too.
Right.
And when he started, he played disco music too.
Right.
But, you know, he had Chuck City crew.
Right.
You know, he had my man like Johnny and all them. They were b-boys. They danced.
Right.
And, you know, he played hip-hop music.
So, I mean, that's kind of foul for them to reject you at first, and then now they sitting here trying to claim it as their own.
See, that's my thing. You know, if you were always down with it, that's fine, but you weren't.
Right.
And it wasn't just that you weren't down with it, you did not like it.
Right.
You rejected it.
Right.
You didn't play it. You made it a point to say we don't play that kind of music. You know what I mean? And as it became more popular, they saw the money in it or the popularity in it with Flash and everybody. Then they started playing it. But they weren't there in the beginnings. They rejected us in the beginnings. They weren't part of the beginnings. And that's as simple as that. They could bring whatever they want to bring. I could care less. Because I was in Brooklyn. So I know for a fact. They had cats, DJ B, DJ App and Sidney B, the Grand Wizard of Sound, Grandmaster Flowers, who had the Grandmaster thing before Flash.
Right.
And Grandmaster Cass.
Right.
Okay? They got it from him.
Right.
But Flowers was not a hip-hop DJ.
Right.
And that's the part that you understand. You could claim whatever you want to claim. And that y'all were first playing DJ music, disco music, good, whatever. You can say whatever you want to say. That's fine with me. I don't argue that. But as far as hip-hop, that specific music and style, you were not there at the beginnings. It was a Bronx thing, strictly. Simple as that.
Right. So, I mean, you know, they had the big equipment.
That's nice. I don't care.
Right.
The equipment ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Right.
It's the music you were playing, the style of music you were playing.
Right.
You were not playing hip-hop music. They weren't playing Apache. They weren't playing Just Begun. They weren't playing Corazon. They weren't playing that. They were playing disco music.
And actually rejected it.
Yeah, they didn't like it. They didn't want us there. But later on, let me tell you, I remember being at a party and they had a crew from Queens and Brooklyn, they run hand in hand.
Right.
And they had a crew in Queens, the Disco Twins.
Right.
They had a crew called Fantasia.
Right.
New Sounds.
Okay.
These were crews from Brooklyn and Queens.
Okay.
Right? They played disco music. Fantasia used to play for Central Commercial's parties. Central Commercial became Norman Thomas. The high school.
Okay.
They played for them. They were their house DJs. Like when they had dances, they did not play hip-hop music at all. Didn't like it, didn't play it, didn't want it. And their crew, because they, you know, Central Commercial, they thought they were fly, and, you know, the girls, they want to be with niggas getting money. Not that we wasn't getting money. We was getting money doing our thing. We hustling or whatever. But they thought they were like a little, you know, they were like bougie. That's a good word for it. They thought they were really bourgeois, and they looked down on us. Like in the Bronx and you know, cats in the Bronx who was B-boys and, you know, that kind of thing. And so they didn't want those kind of people at their parties. And so they had DJs that played very specifically disco music, not hip-hop music. You see what I mean?
Right.
And that's the part that people don't understand. They were against it. They did not like it.
That's deep.
And they made it a point not to play it. So now you want to come along now because that's the popular culture. That's the one that caught on. You want to say, oh, we was there. You're lying. It ain't happening.
Right. The thing that's bugging me out, they got Chuck D, they got Ralph McDaniels in their video. They got all of these people.
Ralph McDaniel, see now I got it. Ralph McDaniel, I give credit.
Right.
Because Ralph McDaniel was embracing some hip-hop music.
Of course, that's
video music.
Right.
He's the first one. And you got to remember WNYE. WNYE is down here. WNYE was in Brooklyn because it's part of Brooklyn Tech. Okay? The studio for WNYE Channel 25.
Right.
That was the studio for the Board of Education. You see what I mean? That was the Board of Education's television studio. That was their radio studio. I did a show for them when I was 10 years old because they used to go in public. I told you I'm a brainiac kind of kid.
Right.
You know, that just happened to embrace some thug life when I was young.
Right.
You know? But I remember doing a show for them called Let's Look at the News, where they used to go to real smart kids in public schools that was in like gifted classes, and they would be on the show. But they filmed that, or they recorded it at WNYA Studios, which was Channel 25. And that was the Board of Education's studio. That was their television station. That was their radio station.
Well, the thing I'm saying is Ralph McDaniels and them seem to be vouching for them, for Flowers and them. That's the
He
thing.
could vouch for them as far as
Chuck
DJs,
D.
but they were not hip-hop DJs.
Right.
And, you know, and I respect Ralph. I met Ralph through Red Alert, you know. People know who I am. And that's cool. We're not saying they didn't DJ. What I'm saying is they were not hip-hop DJs.
Right. But they got that title, Founding Fathers.
Well, I don't know what they want to be founding fathers of. You know, they were DJs in the Bronx. PTJ Jones.
Right.
You know, he's an early DJ.
Right.
You know what I mean? Early MCs. KC the Prince of Soul. Love Bug Starsky. That was the only Starsky. He was just Starsky because there was no need for him to put the Love Bug because Busy Bee wasn't biting on him yet.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Okay.
So Love Bug was a disco MC. He was the MC for PTJ Jones. Okay? And Love Bug crossed over. Love Bug is really responsible for kind of crossing disco into hip hop. That style, Love Bug was really responsible for crossing that over. They say Hollywood, but even Hollywood was not a hip hop DJ. Hollywood is responsible for like mixing like a DJ and his own MC, like MC for himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because usually the DJ just played, like Peep just played music, and he had Starsky MCing. Bambaataa just played music. He had Biggs, and then the Soul Sonic, myself, Pepsi, Queen Kenya, and then later on the other members who joined the Soul Sonic Force. And I also want to say rest in peace to my man Love Hutch, MC Hutch Hutch, who was one of the original members, early members of the Soul Sonic Force, just passed away a couple of days ago. So rest in peace to my brother. He's one of my Zulu brothers.
Okay.
You know, God bless you. Rest in paradise, my brother.
Word up.
You know, Z's up to you. All right? So that's the point that I'm making with it, is that y'all were DJs. We're not denying that.
Right.
And y'all were early DJs, especially Maboya is an early DJ in Brooklyn.
Right.
No questions, no doubts about that. All right? Flowers was an early DJ in Brooklyn, right along with PTJ Jones in the Bronx and whoever they had DJing in Manhattan.
Right.
All these cats were DJing. We ain't saying you weren't DJing.
Right.
What we're telling you is that you were not playing hip-hop music.
Right.
Okay?
And it wasn't down for the culture.
They wasn't down for the culture. So do not make claims to the culture now that it's the one that has become the predominant culture, the one that's making industry, and people are trying to say, well, we started. You ain't had nothing to do with starting hip-hop. Not at all. Period. Period. Ain't nothing to conversate about that.
Right.
Nothing.
Word up.
Nothing to talk about with it. Nothing to converse with about it. Because I don't like to use the word conversate because it's not a word. You know, my intellectual me. There's no discussion about that. You know, you're not a part of that. That is a strictly Bronx phenomenon.
Right.
Strictly.
Right.
Okay, and you know, and I'll challenge anybody on that. Right. I'm like me and my man DST, right? Say we were nomadic b-boys. We traveled everywhere. We traveled everywhere. Remember cats in Manhattan? I remember b-boy in Harlem in 75, 76, and they were like, "What's your nigga?" They tried to attack me because coming at me because I'm burning all their cats because they wasn't into any of that. They had their own style. They were more up rocker types.
Right.
You know what I mean? But going down to the floor and what we were doing, they weren't doing that. You know? They weren't doing that. And Brooklyn definitely wasn't doing it.
Right.
Their thing is like late 70s, early 80s. That's when they started breaking. And Brooklyn started coming down to like the Latin Quarter. And you know Brooklyn, they sticker kid types. They do that.
Right.
You know? So they come into the Latin Quarter, you know, Bonds Casino, when they were starting to play more hip-hop music. But that's more like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And by that time, most of us had stopped b-boying by then.
Right.
You know, the early parts of us. That's when Rocksteady and them all come into it. The 80, 81, 82. By that time, those of us who originally b-boy, I'm talking about the twins, myself, Clark Kent, the original Zulu Kings. All of us had really stopped breaking. You know, we were older. You know, we into chicks, we into getting money, you know, doing other things. You know, that's what happened.
Okay.
So, you know, that's it.
Thank you for clearing that up, man.
My brother, they can challenge whatever they want to. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
You know, that's simple as that.
Right.
You know, BX baby, all the way around. You know, all love to Flowers. May he rest in peace to him. I know he passed away or whatever.
Right.
You know, and all love to him. Great DJ, not a hip hop DJ.
Right.
There it is.
There it is.
I think it's time that I first introduce you to Cameron Flowers, who is one of the founders of disco music.
Instead of me fulfilling my prophecy, I have to start one. Instead of me carrying on the empire, I have to build one.
I was raised to understand that you cannot know where you're going if you don't know where we've been.
There are many firsts and many stories that will be told for generations.
The first Negro in history to win a major tennis title. Thurgood Marshall, the first of his race.
The first African-American woman to medal in an event.
It is a long journey to this moment.
America, we have come so far, but there's so much more to do.
This is the first time that I get a chance to actually speak upon you with the utmost respect that you deserve in our culture of hip hop. To me, you are one of the 4 founders of our culture. If it was a Mount Morris or what they call Mount Richmorris or whatever the fuck they want to call it, you're supposed to stand there with your gangster hat on.
Prickola, you died on me too soon, and you know you should have stuck around to be talking about your own legacy. But you know what? As long as I'm here and you got a voice in me, I'm going to project that voice and let people know that you definitely was a part and a pillar in this whole genre that we call music of the DJs.
As a child, the Bronx was the world. It was an amazing place to grow up.
You know, being from the Bronx and knowing that the Bronx got so much history, Bronx is so magical, and there's a lot of people that went on to become, you know, movie stars and television, great musicians. We just came from a really, really rough background.
We started beatboxing because we couldn't afford drums.
We were poor. Not poor. We couldn't even afford the other OR. We was just poor.
That poverty creates pressure. Pressure either bust pipes or make diamonds.
When Mario came, it was in the era of like high school. They stayed to themselves and everything, but we got to know them.
As a way to escape the labor-intensive life of working in the cotton and tobacco fields, the young Glenn Mario Halsey left Edenton, North Carolina, and moved with his aunt, who was a resident of the Bronxdale housing projects in the Bronx. Mario would have to learn quickly that New York was going to be a very different place.
As time grew on, he kind of adapted that New York City spunk to him.
By 1969, Mario was not only accepted by Bronxdale, but also looked to for his leadership. With a love for music and seeing people happy, he found a way to mesh the two, giving way to what would eventually become known as the Block Party.
If you brought any kind of music around, that's where people were going to gather. At that time, he had like some house speakers and a record player. And then he started getting a little bit more equipment.
You know, he just started his own trend. He played whatever he wanted to play, and people danced to it. what he was playing a disco record, what he was playing music that our moms and pops play in the house. He played music all around the board.
As Mario's popularity grew, so did his jams. And by 1971, he'd firmly established himself as a prominent DJ in the Bronx. With disco music still in its infancy, Mario took on the name Disco King Mario and spread in tandem with the same explosiveness as disco music itself.
He fed the crowd. He gave us food, and he filled our souls.
Mario was also known for being a ladies' man because he was very handsome and he loved to dance to the music that he played. And his signature move was the snake. He used to be dancing, he'd break out into the snake and all the girls would go crazy.
He would shake and do his body like this. And he would do like this. He was snaking. He would put his hand back on his head like this with his hand. He would shake like this. Every place he'd go, he would snake. And he'd get a girl out there and he'd have two girls and he'd put his hand on the back of his head, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he'd start shaking like that. Yeah, everywhere he'd go, he would do that. Everywhere.
And I remember one time, they used to wear those little shorts with the stripes. And I hate to say it, I ain't had no business looking, but he had no drawers on. And he was just shaking. And them girls was going crazy over him.
During a time when home turf and area became protected commodities, Mario became an original member of the legendary street gang, the Black Spades.
Well, the Bronxdale projects, to me, it reminded me of Cabrini Green in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was broke, it was gangs running all over the place.
And that's the way the Bronx was, man. It was so many gangs here. There were gangs all over the place.
Our projects, Bronxdale, was basically on the borderline of a lot of Caucasian racist groups.
Well, there's an Italian neighborhood really less than a mile from our projects to the north. They would drive into our community with baseball bats and chains and switchblades, and they would beat us up or they would rob us. Like imagine like 20 white guys walking around looking like Fonzie. So the Black Spades formed as a way to protect our community.
You could maybe, have to go to a store that was in Westchester Square, and once you get there, they're gonna chase you. They're gonna chase you with bats and beat you. So if you ran and you got to White Plains Road, you were safe. The Spades had that, like, you couldn't cross that.
What I respect about the Black Spades, those gangs didn't harass old people, they protected them. They didn't beat up on regular people, they only fought other gangs. They was protecting the hood.
But you had to be hard and you had to be connected in the community to even be able to bring equipment out in those days, because those were the days of stick-up kids. You bring your equipment out and you ain't have the crew or the juice to be in that community. When you finish jamming and you packing your stuff in your van, they'll pull up a van right next to yours and tell you to put your stuff in their van. Take the keys, let you pack your van and take your van.
Teenage Mario is K-I-N-G. If you came at Mario wrong, somebody would check you before you even got to Mario.
Mario wasn't one of those cats you just wanted to approach and just walk up on, because he would hurt you. You might got it folded up into a little package and tossed.
Hey, if you have a rumor, you come and see yourself. If we were looking for you, man, I guarantee you, we would have came to your turf.
If you have beef and you get Mario, he can whistle and, guys will start flying out of nowhere.
He had his own gang. Having the Chuck City crew and the Black Spades have his back gave Mario the ultimate hood pass.
Fellow Spade and good friend Sinbad shared a musical connection with Mario. But it was Sinbad's introduction to another friend that would start weaving a fabric that would eventually grow to cover the entire world.
We became partners with Bam, but I was living in the same building with Mario. Bam Bada's Zulus, they really didn't care for me because I was from Bronx still. But Mario wanted to do something with Bam because Bam had the records and Bam had like a little following. How about if I get this school? You think you can get Bam to play in it? I said, I talked to Bam and see what happens. And Bam, he said, well, I tried to get it. They said no. I said, but Mario said he can get it. Mario would get it, and that would be it. They would play. The guy had a talent to get places that nobody can get.
Mario had connection. He knew how to butter up the people that was in charge.
All of the people in the schools, we got to know all of the janitors in the school, and Mario tightened up everybody. He said, I tightened them up, Cindy, I tightened them up so we can get to school again, because I greased their palms. He said, I gave them a little extra, Cindy, I gave them a little extra $50. He said, they said, anytime you want it, Mario, anytime you want to school, you just come, I'll give it to you, nobody else. The Audubon Ballroom, Mario thought of it. That was the last big thing they played in. We couldn't get the place. They didn't want to rent the place. Mario said, let me go in it.
This isn't my normal crowd.
I think, baby, I'm going to come in here with the worms. You know,
Every place he'd go, he would snake. He would say, Cindy.
Love it. It's going to be so fish.
All right.
Love it.
Next thing you know, Mario said, we got it. Bam got really popular because a lot of places Bam played that he wouldn't be able to play. It wasn't for Mario.
Mario had risen to the top. He was loved, feared, and greatly respected. He attained a power that few would ever know. It would seem that he had everything. That, however, was only a perception.
He didn't have, the education like that, but you would never know it.
He came from down south and he didn't go to school. I know he knew how to add money up, but he said he didn't know how to really read and write. But it didn't stop him for his other talents, like a blind man being able to do other things. Well, Mario was just like a blind person. He was able to use his other talents to get places, to bring people together.
All of y'all that can't read, y'all just hang out. All right, now once they started hanging out together, then they get tight. Then at once they let's play hooky, man, we ain't learning that no way. So let's cut out. And that's when you get to the point that kids drop out of school. What they do, they jump into crime. Because that's the only thing that's giving them money. They can't jump out of school into a job.
And he may not be able to read and write. And I guess there's a lot of people out there rich that really is not that intelligent. But he uses other talents.
I'm up in my 20s. I can't even read. I can't get a good job. What it feel like, man, what can I say? I can't do nothing. I can't function.
He had a beautiful heart. He was a hustler. He had a soft side. He had a slick side. He was a player. He had girls that was chasing him.
He liked to wear big hats. You know what I mean? He was like Superfly, Shaq. He was like a black exploitation movie walking down the street that lives in your building. He's like, you see Mario coming, all you hear is like Mario, it looked like he should have his own theme music. Because he liked the way he walked, his whole style. He was just always smashing.
He could sell water to a fish. He was one of a kind. He was the kind of person, man, he always got what he wanted. If he wanted to get a venue, he got the venue. If he wanted to get some extra equipment, he got the extra equipment. If he always set out to do something, he always got it done.
Sometimes I wanted to come outside on my mini bike. I couldn't come outside, but if Mario went upstairs and told my mother Miss D, can Booby come out with his mini bike or whatever? She would say yes because she know Mario ain't gonna let nothing happen to me.
We used to see the van, and when we saw the van, we knew Mario would play. And he used to tell, the mothers, let us out. Oh, they'll be all right. Let them come out here and play with the other kids. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be playing. And he would have his equipment out there and he would play, but he would watch us.
In July of 1973, Mario's influence and contributions would be solidified when he brought together rival communities under the banner of music. His 21 Days of Summer spawned a culture that would take on a life of its own.
The whole summer, we was at these block parties. Mario played in Orchard Beach. He played in Rosedale Park.
It was like every day. It wasn't just Friday and Saturday. It was like every day. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mario would bring his music out in a dime. He'll bring it out, Cindy, it's nice out, let's bring the music out. We're bringing out Bronxdale, we're bringing out Soundview, we're bringing out Monroe, we're bringing out here. We bring the music out wherever we can get a permit.
He played the entire month. He played. We broke day.
Everybody's saying the first documented party in hip hop was Herc's Party in 1973. Now, documented means written down. Okay, so that does not mean that it was the first party because nobody made a flyer and said, that this is a party. But by that time, Mario had already started.
Herc, you came along on it, but you came along on it. I can still see you to this day standing in the background looking at Bam and Mario. You didn't start hip hop, nobody started hip hop. Rosedale Park, right here. We were playing there and it was so packed. I mean, old people, young people, kids.
Rosedale Park, at that time, it was clear.
Mario, when he did things, he did it big. He had to go all out.
Before anybody had a real sound system, he was already out there with a sound system. He already knew when I came out in the park, I wanted to be louder. I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to be better than everybody. You knew when you went to go to a park jam with Mario, you was gonna hear them speakers 2 projects down.
This was before anything was on records. There was no records, there was no rap records, there was no rap groups. There was just dudes coming out, setting up their music, rocking the world.
I couldn't explain to you how beautiful the equipment sounded, man. Woo. Them Eliminators and them Marlboros he had, woo. They sounded so beautiful. Like, wow, do you hear that?
It wasn't like today. The energy would draw people from the surrounding areas, and then not only surrounding areas, it would be so infectious. Later on, it would spread through the boroughs.
He definitely is one of the fathers of hip-hop, man, because he was doing it for a long time before we started calling it hip-hop. He was doing it when we was calling it the jam. He definitely helped make hip-hop what it is today.
You ever heard of like love at first sight? That's what it was for me and Mario. It was like love at first sight because he heard my voice and he said, wow, your voice sounds so vicious. And he had a funny way of saying words. And vicious was so vicious to him.
It sounds vicious. This sounds vicious.
It was vicious. It wasn't so vicious.
Vicious.
So vicious. And we became friends after that. And he said, yo, you stick with me and you rock my microphone. I'll buy all that same shit Herc got. We'll sound so vicious.
My brother Mean Gene took me to that side of town. And that's when I seen Mario and I seen that Busy Bee was emceeing for him. And when I went over there, he was like, "Oh, Theodore, yeah, I want to get you to come over here and DJ for me, you know?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Sundance is running up on Mario. He's the bold one. "Mario, you need to bring my DJ here. My boy John." "Yeah, we heard about him, whatever, but you know, is he good enough to be with the Chuck City crew?" For real, nobody in Chuck City could even mess with me at that point. We're gonna transition and we're gonna go to Chuck City crew, which was forbidden territory. Mario was from Bronxdale. Bronx River did not get along with Bronxdale. Couldn't cross those boundaries. My career was at stake. You know what? I was gonna risk it and take the chance. Getting with Mario, it was well worth the chance.
Must have been about 1971. I was going to the store for my aunt and I heard music coming out of the laundry room. So the door wasn't fully closed, so I pushed it open just a little bit, enough that I could see inside, and there he was, Disco King Mario, with 2 turntables and a mixer with a knob on it. I was frozen, I couldn't move. I stood there in the door for a long time. Finally, Mario said, "Hey man, why don't you come in and close the door?" And I'm like, "For real?" He was like, "Yeah, come on in." So I went in, spent hours just listening to Mario DJ.
Mario's the one that gave me the chance. The play on Mario's system was the deal. That means you've arrived. I walk in and out of Bronxdale like a king now, because I'm down with Disco King Mario. One day, Bambaataa, who didn't have a sound system like Mario, but Bambaataa was the master of records, putting records together. We're doing a party in Rosedale Park. Mario's like, "Yeah, Bambaataa, you can play on my set." Bambaataa starts passing me from his personal collection of records tidbits. Bambaataa seeing that, hey, wait a minute, this cat got some talent. We strike up a conversation. We live a half a minute away from each other and never talk until that day. On Mario's set. Mario's the one responsible for putting me and Bambaataa together.
Jay had some records or something.
Yo, who is it?
Mario had the records. Jay came back to get the records.
Great show out there tonight.
Thank you, brother.
You really rocked out. Listen, I got big plans, man. Me and you. I told him Mario and Jay to the top, man. That's what we gonna do. I got this match now, Fizz. Me and you, this is it.
You showed me a lot of love. You put me on the shows.
But Mario just wasn't having it at the time.
I'm from Bronx River. Been talking to Bam, and I think I'm gonna roll with him.
You know, it gets to the point where, you know, Mario might have said, well, I mean, if you my DJ, you my DJ.
Who put you in a position to win, Jay?
Mario gets in a jealous rage. Now he tells me,
"You out of Chuck City."
Chuck City has no more need for you. But all your records that you brought here to Chuck City,
you right here.
Staying with Chuck City.
We just gonna keep them in my house.
I'm from Bronx River. I'm sorry. I used to be scared of you. It ain't happening no more. I'm leaving with my records. And Sundance punked out on me that day because he stepped aside because he was scared of Mario. But me and Mario started tussling.
Wanna fight? Fight me.
Let me explain something to you about Mario as far as that karate stuff. Mario was good, putting fear in you.
Mario could fight. But now Jazzy J could fight too.
Fight. I got in a couple of good licks to Mario too. He knew he was in a fight. We throwing each other around the room, but I wasn't backing down.
Finish him. Every place he go, he would snake.
Long story short, he whipped my ass.
Friendship.
I able to leave out there with my bruises, licking my wounds. I left out there with all my records except for one record, Kraftwerk, We Are the Robots. That was the record that was on the turntable when Mario told me I wasn't down with Chuck City no more. I'm glad we had that fight, but even after that, we will still remain friends. He had a greater respect for me, and I had a greater respect for him.
General Patton once said, "Battle is the most magnificent competition in which a human being can indulge." It's hard to conceptualize how a hip-hop battle can take place without dueling MCs. Now try to figure out how a hip-hop battle can happen without hip-hop.
Back in the days, I bring my equipment out, you bring your equipment out. I set up on one side of the basketball court, you set up on the other side of the basketball court, and we just play music.
You know, one DJ goes, he plays for a period of time, and then he shuts his system off, the next DJ turns his on.
You play for half an hour, I play for half an hour. Once the crowd gets there, we just start turning each other's equipment up and see who keeps the crowd.
Or we both turn the knobs, and whoever got the loudest system wins.
It might get to the point where I'm playing music, and you just might turn your equipment up on me. And I'm like...
You might get arrogant and just turn his shit up and drown the other dude out. You know, and he got to pack his shit up and bounce because he got embarrassed. If both DJs' sound systems was banging and the DJs knew what to play, the crowd would just run back and forth. You go against the wrong DJs on the wrong day, they'll bring that equipment out and they just keep bringing speakers out, piling them up. And you sitting there like, damn, how many speakers he gonna bring? How many power amps he got? You know what I mean?
When the 80s came, so did one of the most devastating epidemics in recent memory. Crack swept the nation. Families were shattered. Countless lives were lost or destroyed. The lucky ones found a way through, but for many, fate would choose a more difficult path. The Disco King had fallen from the kingdom that he had once ruled, having battled his addiction for over a decade. He overcame many challenges, but this time his demons refused to let go. Mario passed away in 1994. Sadly, the memory of him has also been taken, and the captor is still refusing to let go.
Mario was my man. He made me, if the world liked the Chief Rocker, Disco King Mario brought me into the game. It's not on me. The DJs got their same shine, Flash. Like Grandmaster Flash still played today, still be talked about in interviews. I never heard him mention Mario. Africa Bambaataa still do his thing. Sometime I might hear him mention Mario every now and then, but it ain't like he's supposed to. Kool Herc was a friend to Mario. He talked to Mario all the time. I watched him. I was a young guy. I was a kid. They was grown men. When they do their documentaries and films and stuff, not to just even say, you know, my man Mario, he was the Disco King Mario. We didn't have hip hop. So if it was just disco, then he was the king.
Hip hop has always been a culture. Hip hop always came from culture.
The art form, the culture hip hop, was not founded by one person. This art form and this culture was founded by a collective group of people.
And I don't believe that just 3 people should get credit for being the fathers of hip hop. They've changed the game, they've evolved the game, but invent, I don't think so.
It's just hurting to see all of this crap that they're saying on the internet and on Facebook, and to see a lot of my friends talking, and they said they never mentioned Mario. I said, if it wasn't for Mario, this Whitney took off so fast.
Well, Mario basically has been whited out of hip hop history because he died young. You know, people that know Mario, they old heads like me, but people in their 40s, they missed out. You know what I'm saying? People in their 30s, they don't know nothing about Mario. And I just wish that more people would tell their stories and their experiences with Mario, because I would love to hear them. You know what I mean? I would actually treasure that.
I just hope that people would have a little bit more integrity in telling our history, so that the people that's not getting their props can get their props.
If he'd stuck around a little bit longer, he'd have been a king and a force to deal with.
Grandmaster Flowers and Maboya, BT Express, The Joneses, and Black Ivory live at the St. George Hotel, Saturday, February 15th. Tickets at the usual places. Call 771-5292. Your host, Elmo the Magic Christian, a Showstopper production.
Showstoppers present Saturday, February 15th live, the BT Express. The Joneses and Black Ivory at the St. George Hotel, Park and Henry Streets in downtown Brooklyn. Disco sounds by the Grandmaster, Flowers and Mamboya. That's Saturday, February 15th at St. George Hotel, Park and Henry Streets, downtown Brooklyn. The BT Express, the Joneses. And Black Ivory. $100 in cash will be given to the best dressed male and female and will be awarded by MC Lamar Renee, your host Elmo the Magic Christian. Tickets on sale at all the usual places or call 771-5292. That's 771-5292. This is indeed a showstopper. Say, if you want to check out a gig, check out Brother John Lucien at the Club My Way or call 265-0450 for more information.
What are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
Have a good time.
I believe her. I really believe her. Can I come to Bermuda and have a good time too?
Yes, you can.
Distinguished young lady.
I have nothing else to say, Tommy.
We love you in New York. Bermuda, are you ready? I don't think Bermuda is ready for you ladies. What are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
Have fun.
I think I'm gonna stop everything I'm doing and I'm going to Bermuda myself. What are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
Take a nice clean swim.
Ooh, what are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
When I get to Bermuda, I just have fun, you know, like I just groove on everything there. Just have a good time.
My gosh, all these people are gonna be in Bermuda and I'm gonna be in New York. What are you gonna do when you get to Bermuda?
Have a ball.
Oh, I have to go. Rose. Do you feel a little bit closer to Bermuda?
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay, Kenny, I'm gonna go. Ready? Let me know when you're ready.
Small, would you come out on the stage and take a round of applause? Ms. Hazel Benson, please step into the center of the stage. Ms. Hazel Benson, please, and take yours up to the bow. Also, Mr. Cliff Small, our host and hostess. Cliff, take her by the hand, please. Take her on the stage. Hazel Benson and Brother Cliff Smalls, a circle of acquaintance and put it all together for y'all tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. Professor Hazel,
I'm gonna interview them on the mic.
we want to say thank you so very much. And from Mahogany, a special thank you to all of you.
Take off that top.
Yes,
Hazel.
all the contestants, please.